Oh.
Hello.
Hello, friends, enemies, and
everyone in between. Chaotic neutral folks.
I was gonna say
Frenemies?
combinations thereof, but like that works too.
Yeah, frenemies. That's the combination thereof. You fucking dunce.
Jeez. If I'm not as talkative tonight, it's because I have a little bit of a cold and I'm, my throat. It's not really my throat hurts, just my voice sounds kind of shitty. You know?
We got 6 people watching already.
Send us the link, man.
No!
Piece of shit. Fine, I'll go to your channel then.
Are you subscribed to my streaming channel even?
I am. Check your subscriptions. So your subscribers, people subscribe to you and shit.
No, I don't check my subscriptions.
You know what? It would save me a lot of time if I just started fucking putting on notifications for this channel.
You know, you would, and you know, the rest of you should do it too, you know?
That's
Yeah.
the whole point of subscribing. Fucking YouTube's.
Here's a button that tells you when this person uploads, but sometimes it doesn't work. So here's a extra button that'll tell you that it works.
It's really dumb. It's really not very smart.
Oh, this button that's supposed to be telling you when this person has started uploading and or streaming is not working also. Let's add a third one. And like keep stacking them on top, like every fucking time one doesn't work the way we want it to, instead of just fixing it to begin with.
You know, that's good. That's
Is that
good.
really what the story behind the bell icon is? That the subscription feature wasn't working, so we just built another feature instead of fixing it?
I don't know.
Because I wouldn't be surprised.
Honestly,
like,
honestly, YouTube is that shit that like I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, YouTube has no idea what they're doing. We bring back the old like fucking CEOs.
So anyway, how is everybody doing in the chat? Are we all surviving given circumstances in life? So we got Aiden Rodriguez, we got Iron Ninja, we got Euphoric Lenny, we got Socially Inept Spider-Man, Kian, Mr. Person, 2143 Productions. Welcome, everybody. Iron Ninja says, I'm scared. That is nothing if not a, as the youths say, a mood. So, tonight, I figure what we will start out with doing is we will start out by me playing the story mode, and I will figure out how to fight by doing the campaign, and Scrubs also has this game, so at some point he might join us depending on what I feel like doing. So
yeah.
that is the situation.
The situation?
The sitch.
The sitch.
The stitch.
The stitch. So how do you feel about these multiverse stories?
What's that?
How do you feel about multiverse stories?
I think they can be done really well if you got the right team on, but they can be really fucking shitty and obnoxious and like over the top and just a mess all around if you don't. Case in point, the original Spider-Verse and original Spider-Verse in that Dan Slott Spider-Verse and
as in the comic book
Spider-Verse. Yes, and the original one in the cartoon, because that was really fucking awesome. It's basically the same concept, just done in completely different ways. One is better, the other one is just not.
That is true. For me, I think there's a danger in multiverse stories, which is that you can... It's kind of cheap. It's kind of a cop-out in the sense that you can, like, very easily use it as If you're not a very good storyteller and you want a cheap Deus Ex Machina to get out of something, you can use it very easily for that. And it's used well, but very rarely. That's funny. Oh yeah, I turned down the volume on the dialogue really low, so unfortunately, you guys, you can't hear this lovely story. So, how do you feel about Superman, but evil Xavier? How do you feel about that?
It was a novelty once upon a time, but now because it's slowly but surely becoming the default, because it's like way
because of
easier,
Zack Snyder.
Well, even Zack Snyder didn't go for it. He just kind of like
he wanted to go for it.
Yeah.
And we'll see what he does with Superman in the Zack Snyder cut.
The Snack Snyder Justice League cut.
But like,
you know what?
I blame this for popularizing it because this game was a hit. You know?
Oh yeah. But you know, I don't blame that.
Iron Ninja in the comments says this was Brightburn before Brightburn. And I agree with that.
I fucking hated Brightburn. That movie is so boring.
I hated Brightburn so much.
They had one idea and then didn't know anything else to do.
Yeah, it was like James Gunn giving his less talented relatives a chance to get into Hollywood. Nepotism. It's a thing. It exists and happens more often than we'd like to admit. And it was just kind of, very... And it's just not a vibe, not a mood. It wasn't very clever. I agree with that 100%. It was just like...
I like the comic panel version of this scene where you actually get to see his hand penetrate Joker's chest and Batman's in the background going, "Oh!"
2143 Production says, I always thought Superman punched Joker in the dick at this part.
The funny thing about this game is that the whole reason it exists is because Ted...
Also, 2143 Productions says that I did a rant on Brightburn on one of Xavier's streams, and I'm like, I'm sorry if, on these streams I repeat what I say, but, I forget every single thing that comes out of my mouth right after I say it, so... What you see is what you get. I might be repeating myself all the fucking time here. That's just how I survive in these things,
That's everyone, though.
Well, when you have to talk for 4 hours at a shot, uninterrupted, eventually you'll start covering the same ground.
Especially if you make a living out of it, which I don't, but I do it semi-regularly now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's Superman and Gal Gadot, and look at Aquaman. Look at how different he looks from the movie.
I like this version of Aquaman so much better than any other version.
It's the Aquaman before they changed his ethnicity.
And before they were like, all right, let's just try and make him as much like Thor as we can, because that worked.
Let's make him like Thor through the lens of Jason Momoa. Because Jason Momoa doesn't have much range as an actor. He's just sort of himself.
He can play a dude bro.
Yeah, he is a dude bro.
Haha, the Batman. Haha, how's it going, bro? Yeah, I can talk to fish and shit, bro. Haha.
Look, there's Raven and Nightwing.
Can you imagine if that was the actual...
And Cyborg.
Can you imagine if that was the actual accent that Jason Momoa had in the movie?
I honestly
that would have been so beautiful,
that
honestly.
That would have been so much better than just trying to be strong and trying to be
Okay, excuse me for a moment. I need to take a call, so keep talking. I'll be right back.
Alrighty. I was gonna say earlier, the whole reason why this game exists is because Ted Boone, the guy who created fucking Mortal Kombat in these games.
Ted Boone?
Yeah, Ted Boone. He wanted to basically settle the argument of who would win in a fight, Batman or Superman. And that's
then
how this game basically came into inception.
I think Jed Spoon oversold it, because this is not how that turned out, really.
No, because the climax of this game is Superman versus Superman, and at no point in the game does Batman have any like huge contributing factors in Superman ever entering, because that happens like by accident. And even if he didn't enter, there's no way that Batman could have won, because like immediately after he got the weapon, hence the reason why the Justice League from that other universe teleported in, like immediately after that it just gets destroyed. And he would have been fucked if Superman hadn't like accidentally found a way to get into this universe.
Awesome. David's not here and didn't pause it. Fantastic. Deathstroke is like 5% difficulty, so he's really sizing him up. He's really taking his time. He's like planning his moves.
Is this how Batman plans his moves against the fights?
This is a game of mental chess. Oh my god! He's got it! He's made the first move!
He moved the pawn to e5. I don't know chess that well. Like, I don't know the exact coordinates.
I like how, they didn't want to make a whole bunch of new fucking assets just for this map, so they actually just got models from Rocksteady. That is just Hugo Strange from Arkham City. And a bunch of the other villains you see in here. So, one could argue that this might be the Arkhamverse.
I would not, because that would ruin it for me. Well, actually, that would make sense considering.
No, this is good guy universe where everything's going okay. This is not the Injustice Evil Super. This is a universe where Superman's great.
Right. That's true.
Because I mean, this can't be like the comic universe, whatever it's called, Earth 1 or Earth whatever. Because like, at no point do they ever really mention that they bumped into another universe. They're like, oh yeah, Batman pulled us over to a universe where Superman was evil, and then we helped kick some ass, and then came back. Like, I feel like they would have brought that up. So, my assumption is that this is the fucked up thing. Is whether this is canon or not is a little bit up for debate, because the dialogue intros for the fights are, they say a lot of things. But in Injustice 2, Sub-Zero is like, hey, because, Sub-Zero is a guest character. He's like, hey, Batman, remember when all of us teamed up to defeat Dark Khan a couple years ago? Which means Mortal Kombat versus DC is the Injustice universe.
I like that, actually. I think it's a good way to tie those two games.
Anyway, I'm back. I'm sorry, I just had to... I just had to answer a call from my parents, so...
No worries. Hope everything is good.
But that may very well mean
No, they just called me to ask if I wanted to keep my copy of the Divergent series Insurgent, because they're cleaning out their DVD tray. So, like, I said, of course I want to fucking keep the Divergent series Insurgent.
It's your favorite movie.
Well, at some point, I do actually want to review, like, those Divergent movies, because when I was in high school, I was really into that whole young adult thing, so I want to go down memory lane and tear those movies a new asshole, if you know what I mean.
That'd be fun.
It's really interesting.
If I'm not mistaken,
mm-hmm.
the voice actor for Green Arrow in this is the guy from the TV show.
Mm-hmm. To answer your question, Euphoric Lenny, we can hear the combat, but we can't hear the cutscenes because I turned down the audio a lot. And, like, the next time I have access to the menu, I will change that. But for now, it's just a nice atmosphere so that we can, chill and talk.
You could also put the subtitles on.
I could.
That is true.
Once I get access to the menu. I don't have access to the menu right now.
Because of how many times I've, like, streamed or, like, recorded gameplay for videos, it's become just, like, natural for me to immediately turn on the subtitles with every game.
How do I pause? How do I pause? Okay, how do I pause? What's the pause button? Escape does not want to work for me. Like,
are you using keyboard?
Come on. Yes, I am using keyboard.
Yeah, escape.
Come on.
It says it's not working. Well,
Okay.
you need to figure out how to pause it at some point, because you gotta turn the game off.
Yeah, I do. It's gonna be weird. I need to like, figure that shit out, you know?
Default controls just really weird.
I don't have a controller. I can't plug it into one, so sorry.
Did you leave your controller in the other space?
Yes.
Oh my god. Dude, why do you keep doing that? If it's not your microphone, it's your controller. There's something else like your camera.
I'm sorry, I had to pack light this time.
Okay, you know what? Let's Google it. How to pause Justice BC. Oh my god, like that was the automatic search thing. There's people asking this, like on the Steam community.
So this isn't incompetence on our end. This is
No, it's not.
a full-on issue.
Fuck you.
Oh. It is default 4 on the keyboard. So just press the 4.
What?
Yeah, what the fuck?
What does that? That doesn't make any sense, though.
No, it doesn't. Why would you do that? That's so dumb.
Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, main menu. This is so weird. I'm. Thank you all for watching my very awkward, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't show it in the controls option either, apparently.
That's so weird. Okay, thank you for Googling that.
Yeah, no worries.
Scrubbles.
Actually, you know what? Check the controls. When I went to press the thing, it showed me the
No,
control
4
option.
worked. 4 worked. I tried it.
Oh.
Now I break your back.
Is the audio situated a little better?
It should be. I hope it is.
Well, I just meant like if you could change it from 4 to 6. I don't know if it actually shows these things. Not these things.
So anyway, this game might be a crossover between the Arkhamverse and the Marvelverse and Justice universe. Like this might be, you might be playing as Arkham Batman, possibly.
Batman
And also, I mean, there's nothing to really contradict that because we don't see really what happens. Like, as soon as they beat evil Superman and help set things right in the other timeline, they all just fucking go home and we don't know what happens for them because Justice 2 doesn't even touch on these guys anymore.
Is that why Rocksteady's need to know Brainiac? Is it just like trying to like, make connections to this one that's saying, oh, it's happened in May 2020 now? If that's the case,
Perhaps.
Rocksteady lost all of their like charm after basically they stopped calling what's his name? Paul Dini to come in and write for them. Because after Arkham City, somebody else wrote Harley Quinn's Revenge, and somebody else wrote Arkham Knight and Arkham Origins. And I doubt that they got Paul Dini to write any what do you call them, Suicide Squad. And they've only ever had like 2 good games. Arkham Asylum and City, those are like the 2 award-winning games that they have. Everything else is just meh. Or yeah, it's good. I like
Catwoman grunt.
But those 2 games are the only ones that are like, holy shit, that is fucking amazing. That's great. Everything else is just mediocre or bad.
Mediocre. Do you remember that?
What? Huh?
Mediocre.
No.
It's from the National Bible of Australia, Mad Max.
Fucking mediocre.
Oh yeah.
See you later, 2143 Productions.
Resigned to throwing
2,143 productions. Man, that's a lot of productions you got there. How do you keep up with all of these? Jesus.
This guy's busy. He's got a lot going on.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the hustle. I respect that.
time to teach you.
Arkham Knight arguably has the best gliding physics, though. It does, but I think that's the only thing that's going for it. Because gliding, and I guess a little bit of combat aside, everything else is just recycled shit that hasn't, like, been innovated on. Or improved. Like, even the Batmobile takes a lot from the Batman Begins video game. And that does it, like, so much better. Like, I was saying to Xavier the other day, like, Batman Begins still has that whole, like, you run over cars and it still says that they're, like, alive and not fucking dead for some reason. But it works because it doesn't try to explain it. It just says, yeah, it is what it is. Like, who gives a shit? Arkham Knight tries to do it, and I think that's where it fails because...
Yeah,
like,
in trying
none
to
of their
explain it, you
explanations make sense.
call attention to it.
Exactly. Like, even Spider-Man PS4, like, the whole webbing after an hour thing, you can put bad guys in the most, like, impossible situations. You could web them on a fucking crane hanging, like, 20 feet above the ground. And, like, logically, in an hour, they would fucking die unless you save them. But you don't. But who gives a shit? They don't try to call attention to that. It is what it is. Like, nobody's gonna think about it.
Or yeah, the whole thing where, like, if you throw a person off of a rooftop, they'll just, like, automatically get webbed somehow. And it's like...
Oh, yeah. Like, you don't see him throwing the thing at them. It just happens. Who cares? You don't gotta explain everything. And I think the worst part about it is the Arkham series, it's supposed to be taking place in a fairly realistic world. Like, everything is supposed to be grounded. And so when you try to explain something that is just as worse as the element that you're trying to explain, or just as nonsensical, then you make it worse, and you basically fuck it. And Arkham Knight has a habit of doing almost everything that the other games did that made it realistic, quote unquote, and stand out and, like, being grounded. Arkham Knight just fucking ruins it, both its gameplay and its story. And I think that's its biggest downfall. Because there's no consistency across the series. It's just, oh, how can we make this cool? Or how can we add shock value? Oh, the Joker, yeah, his blood is turning people into other Jokers now. Because he was poisoned. That's how it works, right? Well, who gives a shit? Now we can add like a bunch of just, oh, did you know that this happened? And like we could add a bunch of fucking.
It's just like retcons upon retcons to try and like
just a shock value.
substitute. Yeah, to try and substitute for having to come up with new ideas. Because like there's nothing really new or interesting on Arkham Knight. Like, you know, Arkham City was like a weird idea that had never happened in the comics before. So was Arkham Asylum, really. But Arkham Knight is like a weird half-assed adaptation of like a handful of different storylines.
It tries to be the Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins, and the Dark Knight.
So,
while also trying to be under the Red Hood.
Euphoric Lenny says, it seems that Arkham Knight suffers from the same flaw as the Deadpool game, where the gameplay is good and the story is garbage. I think that Xavier had some differing opinions about that, but...
No, in my reviews, it was just like, the gameplay is fun. This is about how I think a Deadpool game would play.
Well, I'm talking about
Arkham Knight.
Arkham Knight.
Well, like I said, the gameplay is like clunky in that it doesn't know how to pace itself properly, and like you end up spending way more time doing like only punching and only tank combat, and like the stealth has been relegated to such a background element. That was a disappointing part for me. So I felt like all the Arkham games so far had a really decent balance of, you know, puzzles, stealth, and like just hand to hand. And it was like, you know, you would cycle through all of those, and every time you were starting to get tired of one, you'd move on to the next type of thing, so that it was always kind of like staying fresh. But with Arkham Knight, it's like the vast majority of the puzzle stuff is like completely optional, and you know, even the stuff that you have to do, it's like really dumbed down and easy. So like the mandatory puzzles to beat the game like ask like nothing of you, so it's like it doesn't really, you know, take up any of your attention or time. And then the, you know, the tank combat and the fist combat are, you know, just the forefront, because, you know, they came up with mechanics that they were happy with for that, and we're like, let's put our forward with this. But like the stealth combat, it's you know, it's designed the same way it always has been. It's the same, you know, mechanics. It's just that the arenas that you do it in are so like bland and shitty. It's just like, let's just cover the entire ground in like the floor grates, so you're just spending all of your time under there.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, you know, you could just do the fear multi-takedown things so that you could just like take out like pretty much everyone in the stealth sequence in one move. So it's like there's like no strategy to it. It's just the stealth stuff was put on such a back burner that it was really disappointing for me, because like that was like one of my favorite parts of that game. You know, that series.
Okay, so just to interrupt for a second, guys, I have now boosted the volume on the cinematics and their subtitles. So if you're wondering about that, that's been a thing now.
Yay!
Yay! So thanks everybody for following us.
Oh yeah.
Iron Ninja
5,000
says odd bit
hours.
of weirdness. The Titan formula isn't actually mentioned once in Arkham Knight.
Fuck me.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well,
What is up with my ping?
It's like they forgot about it, and you're just like, oh yeah, Joker poisoned everyone with his blood, and it's like, no, his blood isn't poisoned by itself. He was poisoned by something else.
You guys cut out there for like, I don't know, like 30 seconds, and I missed what David was gonna say, and I caught like the last half of what Xavier said.
I was moting Iron Ninja's comment that the Titan formula isn't mentioned once in Arkham Knight.
Oh, that's because Bane isn't even in there. Oh wait, no, but Joker, yeah.
Yeah, because
No,
the
you're
Joker
right.
formula is why he died in, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Arkham Knight has this weird habit of, like, even... They made this game, Batman Arkham VR, which was like a sequel to City and a prequel to Night that takes place in Bruce's, like, dreams or whatever, like his quote-unquote recurring nightmare, where we find out that he's turning into the Joker, or like he finds out that he's turning into the Joker. And it's just this weird convoluted mess of, like... I don't know, it's weird. It does exactly what Arkham Knight does in that it forgets about what's already been established and tries to just re-establish its own thing, just for the sake of shock value. Because at the end of that, Batman looks in like some sort of mirror and he's like, oh shit, I am the Joker. Like, the reflection is Joker, as opposed to Batman. It's... their biggest
Alright, I'm gonna
mistake
break
was-
this down. This is the lightning round. I'm gonna break it down as simple as possible. Joker's blood is tainted by the Titan formula, which makes him sick, and then he puts that blood into, you know, Batman and then several dozen other people, because I guess he's a universal donor, which is pretty convenient. And all those people get sick too because of the Titan poison. But then between games, they forgot how that worked, so then instead, it's without really explaining it, it's now some kind of mad cow disease mutated blood that turns you into the Joker. Like,
Remember,
having it in your
guys,
system.
don't do drugs.
Yeah. So having it in your system will mutate you to have the Joker's DNA, so you'll look like him and start thinking like him. Which is why those 5 random people or whatever started thinking like Joker and becoming him. And so did Batman. And I think they dropped some kind of tiny, weird-ass explanation that, like, radiation treatment can help deal with it or something, and then at another point they mentioned that Scarecrow's fear toxin has radiation in it. This is never directly, like, they never call attention to this. This is just 2 random things that were mentioned, so some people in the comments of my video have explained that after getting injected with, like, a crazy bullshit amount of
Oh my
toxin
God.
all night long.
I'm getting my ass
eventually-
kicked because Joker's being really aggressive right now for some reason. I don't know why.
Joker, it's almost like he hates Batman or something.
But it's like so much higher difficulty than the past sections where it's like, what's going on, you know?
Yeah, did you do the tutorial combat?
Yes, I did. I did it like yesterday, so.
Oh.
But so some people have tried to explain in a way that after getting injected with a bunch of fear toxin and fucking sniffing it all night long throughout the course of Arkham Knight, Bruce somehow managed to make the Joker sickness go away because of the trace amounts of radiation, which the game never explains that, or calls attention to that, or even suggests that's a thing that happens, so that to me is like just a bunch of bullshit. That I don't really know if that's canon, that just seems like a bunch of bullshit cloud watching. The thing that bothers me more than anything about Arkham Knight is how the story is like incomprehensible nonsense and just completely contrived, you know, full of plot holes, full of logical inconsistencies, full of like really brain dead decisions by the characters, just all for the sake of let's just write a story where Batman stops being Batman, right? Like nothing makes sense to make it happen, but people who like the series or like want to defend it will go to the ends of the earth to twist as many tiny little, like, minute little details that basically add up to nothing to try and make them all fit together as some crazy puzzle that makes the story make sense. And it's like, you shouldn't have to fucking wrap your head around it in circles and try and, like, explain it away. You shouldn't need to write like a 5-page essay about why the story makes sense. It should just make sense. It shouldn't even be a question.
Yeah.
I like to call that the Prometheus syndrome.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You get something contrived and silly and nonsensical, and then just try to like put it together yourself forever, and like even then a whole lot of stuff and like the fan explanations don't work. And again, I'd like to mention that the Joker being there made so little sense to me, and apparently so many other people, that people who have defended that game to me, like, just flat out, honest to God, said, well, I just assumed the Joker was a ghost. And then, like, thought I sounded dumb for not immediately also assuming that. The Joker was a fucking phantom spirit possessing Batman from beyond the grave. And then I said to them, well, then why did he only appear after Batman was dosed with drugs that make you hallucinate? And then they were like, because that's when he decided to reveal himself.
What?
Yeah, see, this is fan fiction right now. This is
Exactly,
canon
yeah.
patch fiction. This isn't even game explanations.
In order to make it make sense, you have to write so much fan fiction, headcanon bullshit, and it's just like, at that point when you need to go to that many great lengths to kind of like piece it all together and defend it, maybe it actually just does have some big issues the way it was written. Like, and I hate the double standard of like, people are always bitching about, you know, how one Batman interpretation fucks up the character. Like, everyone's mad at like, you know, the Snyderverse Batman.
And rightfully
and how
so.
he kills people and like, you know, is a bastardization of the character or whatever. But like, Arkham Knight makes Batman into a fucking asshole and an idiot and like just a complete buffoon, and no one seems to have a problem with it. Because my reasoning is that a lot of the Bat fans just choose to like ignore it on the basis of it's told in a way that sounds cool on paper. The actual execution is garbage, but like...
Yeah.
That is fair. That is also fair.
Batman has to give up his secret identity, and he has to go on this mission alone. And it's like, again, all of it sounds cool on paper. If you like summarize it away without a lot of like the problems and just like look at it at like its barest level, and just kind of ignore like 80% of the events that make it happen, the actual events there, like, oh, that could be kind of cool. So it's just like you have to ignore so much context to make it interesting, and that's what bothers me about like when people write big angry comments about why Arkham Knight is awesome and I'm just dumb. Is like you have to either twist the context or ignore it to make this work, and it's like that context it's important. You shouldn't just completely shut it out or like try to spin it around with a bunch of silly fan fiction angles.
I don't exactly agree with that. Because
What is
Arkham
fan
Origins
fiction?
kind of requires you to do the same.
Socrates,
Because Arkham
what is
Origins
fan
Has
fiction?
a lot of. Arkham Origins has a lot of moments where you kind of need to ignore the pre-established lore. For instance, Joker and Harley first meeting in Blackgate, as opposed to Arkham Asylum, as it has been established in Arkham Asylum, the video game, or
Yeah.
like fucking
Ark-
Firefly and his origins. And,
Arkham
and
or
Black
Arkham?
Mask and shit.
That's
Whatever,
the.
same thing.
Hello, sorry to interrupt. Hello, Cyborg Diego. Welcome to the chat. Hello, fellow
He lies.
virgin. Thank you. I
he's
hope
no
you're
Chad.
having a lovely, very uneventful Tuesday in which nothing special is happening whatsoever. Anyways,
don't-
continue on your rant that I don't actually know anything about, so I can't really participate at all.
That's all good. Also, Cyber Diego is a fucking liar. He's no Chad. I'm the Chad.
Oh, I wasn't saying that he was a Chad either. I was just saying it's
I know.
okay to be a virgin.
In his comment, he called himself a Chad.
I know. I'm just saying. I admit that that's a lie right there.
Hell yeah.
I don't like this design for Raven. I don't like either of the designs for Raven in this game. They both look stupid.
Yeah.
In fact, I think this game is just really visually ugly.
I agree
I just
with
fucking
that.
hate the character models in this game. The models look gross. The colors look gross. Like, this game is just like hard on the eyes.
I just
You know, I
think
could
that's the funny thing with
contradict.
graphics.
I could contradict Iron Ninja in the chat, but
Chad.
he's also a moderator, so like, you know, I
You
won't
could take
say.
his mod away.
I could take his mod privileges away, but I won't for right now.
But yeah, Arkham Origins has a lot of these moments where you gotta ignore continuity for the story to make sense, but I feel like the difference between that game and Arkham Knight is that the story in and of itself is good, and what they tell us makes sense without needing to refer to, like, all the other games. And I guess that could be just a matter of where it takes place in the timeline, but I don't know. I just had a much better time with this, in spite of everything that it contradicts, just because it's well written. Whereas Arkham Knight tries to be so much. and
Well, yeah, okay.
failed.
That's the thing is, like, both of those games don't work super well as, like, parts of this series. Like, Arkham Origins being a prequel to Arkham Asylum makes zero sense because, like, so much shit is different or wrong. But, like, as its own story, it works. But, like, Arkham Knight does not work as its own story because it's like so much of it is completely reliant on what happened in the previous games, but then also doesn't follow up on those properly. And then also it fumbles its own story that it's trying to tell because it can't figure out what to focus on. Because, like, the whole, you know, Joker coming to terms with his fear of, or Batman coming to terms with his fear of being Joker, or Batman being sick, like, both of those things, like, fight for screen time with, you know, Scarecrow's revenge, and Jason Todd is you know, becoming the Red Hood. Like, there's so many different, like, aspects of that story for fighting for the screen time that, like, none of them end up feeling developed all the way. So it's like, it's just a bunch of really half-baked, like, you know, it's a bunch of ideas that would have been cool if you'd, like, focused on them properly, all coming together to just be kind of, like, half-assed together. Because if you do the game and just have it be about, you know, I gotta take down Scarecrow, that's an alright game, sure, whatever. Or if you do the game, it's just like, oh, okay, Red Hood, we're doing a game version of Red Hood. That would have been fine. Or, you know...
They tried to be clever and do, like, multiple things at once, is what you're saying.
then it becomes overstuffed because that game's like 25 hours long and like somehow feels too short because there's just so much shit going on.
I get that feeling. I'm like halfway through the game already.
Guess I won't be getting any more lip from her.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I feel like if they wanted to do and tackle multiple aspects, just do what Arkham City did and make an expansion pack. Like, don't fit it all into the main story. Make a story about Scarecrow, and if you want to fit in the Red Hood story in there, just make an expansion pack about the Red Hood. Like, or just make another game with the Red Hood. This doesn't have to be the final Batman game, you know? Like, it's only the final Batman game because they choose it to be, and even then, they're making other Batman games. Arkham VR case in point.
That whole thing that was also very frustrating. It's like, you know, we have to come up with as many weird contrivances to make it clear that this is the last game in this series. But like, you didn't have to write it as some kind of ending. You could have just told another Batman game.
It's because listen, it's because they had a jealousy boner for the Christopher Nolan movies, and they had to imitate them by having the definitive ending.
That is
and all
true,
that.
because that timeline does kind of make sense, is because around the time fucking Arkham Knight would have began its story development is right when Dark Knight Returns, or Dark Knight Rises was just out. So they were probably like, okay, here's a movie where Batman heroically sacrifices himself and goes into hiding and lets his Bruce Wayne persona die. And they were like, Septon Hill, I imagine, was like, okay, we can do that for our universe, for our Batman thing, and then we'll be done. But it's just like, between the two of them, like, the Arkham universe just didn't know how to build that up properly, so it's basically like, instead of actually having the villains... That's another thing. I got this one comment that was, like, completely fucking baffling to me. Someone was like, why are you mad that the villains aren't more or why are you mad that the villains are not very competent? It's like you want them to be outsmarting him at every turn, and it's like, yeah, that's
straight.
Yeah, because that's what the game is saying is happening. But then it's this dissonance where it's like Batman is like, oh, I'm completely helpless, I'm getting my ass kicked. But like in the gameplay and like even the stuff that's happening on screen is not really backing that up. It's like we're being told that he's losing, but shown that he's completely fucking rocking house and then just gives up in the last 5 seconds of the race.
I appreciate you using the term ludonarrative dissonance, because I told you about that. I like that.
Well, I've also learned a little bit about it through, like, I watched this really great video about why Naughty Dog games are, like, badly designed.
You sounded super robotic, and I don't know if it's me or you.
Is it Discord, or is it my voice is a little fucked up?
I've got, like,
also, Iron Ninja in the chat is mentioning... So, Cyborg Diego, sorry for you to have to go to work. I'm sorry about that. But Cyborg Diego and Iron Ninja in the chat are mentioning yummy Turtles pizza.
I will fucking find your IP addresses, all two of you, and I will fucking track you down and kill you Batman style. I will Red Hood your ass. Don't bring that up. You know what? I'll let Xavier finish his thought, and I'll clear out the whole thing and Xavier's butchering the fuck out.
Well, he ate a pizza, and then he got sick, and then pooped his pants.
Exactly.
That's a lie.
Anna's in the chat. Welcome,
Hi,
Anna.
Anna.
Oh shit!
Hi,
Hey, Anna.
Anna. Hi, Anna. Hi, Anna.
Hope you're having a lovely evening, morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. You know.
What's happening? Okay, the thing with the pizza. So, it was a Saturday, and every week, I allow
You're
myself
so
a single
passionate about
day.
this. You're so fired up over this fucking
I'm
pizza.
so annoyed by how butchered it is. Everybody's gonna get the wrong
I don't
idea
know
about
what's
it.
wrong about Australian pizza. Like, what is it about pizza in Australia that fucks you up so
anyway.
much?
So I'm like, I want to get myself a pizza, and I figured, hey, let's go to the fucking New Yorker range pizza that Domino's now has. Like, let's give that a try. And I get it, and I'm like, I'm 4 to 5 slices in, and I'm like, this is starting to taste bland. I'm like, it's probably just the 1 slice. 2 slices in, and I'm like, yeah, this is starting to taste really bad. So I've got like 2 more slices, right? Or something like that. And I'm like, I'm gonna save it for tomorrow. But then I thought, this is my cheat meal day. And if I'm gonna save it for tomorrow, I'm probably gonna want it, and I'm probably gonna eat it. And that's the purpose of having a cheat meal day, because if you can eat whatever you want on any other day, don't fucking have a cheat meal day. So I'm just like, you know what? I'll probably forget about it by tomorrow. So let's just finish those final slices. That's what I do. By the end of that, I'm feeling really fucking bloated and sick, and I couldn't sleep the entire night, and I feel like an idiot for doing that. And then I tell Xavier about it, and the next day on stream, I tell Xavier and David about it, and the next day on stream, Xavier fucking tells the story, but adds a bunch of shit that I never said, and tries to, like, connect the dots in a way that, like, makes me sound like a buffoon, and I didn't like that.
Yummy, 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 yummy pizza.
And Xavier ruined it, the story, and I'm clearing it up now.
I don't know what it is about pizza in Australia that makes it so gross.
I'm not
Like,
an idiot, guys, I swear.
normally, like, American pizza is not that disgusting. Like, I get it that you ordered from Domino's, but it doesn't need to be that bad.
Everybody went silent.
Also,
They like
Anna says that she's eating spaghetti and she just got finished doing Christmas decorations. You know, that sounds like a lovely
I can hear
day.
David speaking in the stream. I can't hear him on Discord.
What the hell? Something's going on with your Discord. Hey, look, there's fascist Green Lanterns. Look, fucking hippie Green Lantern's gonna beat up fascist Green Lantern.
Can you hear me now on Discord?
Hello?
Hello.
You know what? Maybe we should talk more about Injustice, because we've just been talking about Arkham so far.
Can you hear me? Just say yes or no, so I can not. So I don't have to...
hear you. I can hear you just fine.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Real woman. Will be in.
Okay, I'm back. Am I back? No, yeah, I'm back.
Yeah,
209.
can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you, yes.
Hi. Welcome.
I was ranting, and then I stopped, and I was expecting a response, and I'm like, oh, they're probably just doing this again. And I see David talking on stream. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then I checked my Discord, and I've got like 5,000 MS on But yes, I am back.
Are you sure that you're back?
I think I am. If I'm not, then I'll let you know.
I'm doing my job.
So did you, like, get the full story? Did I cut out at any point?
No. I'm just giving you shit because I don't believe your story.
Okay, well, fuck you. That's fair. That's very in character. But I want everybody else to know that the story isn't exactly how it was presented, like, 2 years ago.
They don't care either. They just like to make fun of your shitty Australian pizza.
Listen here, can I just not fucking shitty ass fucking great? Take that back, dog.
I'm sorry, but like pizza is an inherently American item.
It's actually fucking Italian, you racist fuck.
It's Italian American. It's not like if you know anything about like actual Italian food, it's not an Italian thing specifically.
Well, I'm gonna say it's Italian.
Who are you
Time to
people?
kick my ass.
So Xavier says, yes, I got the full story, but I want to go with the way Xavier told it. I'm gonna fuck you.
You ate the pizza that had the turtle juice on it.
The turtle semen pizza.
I heard you say that. I didn't know if I wanted to laugh or just like write me a very angry message. I was like, it's kind of funny, but it's very traumatic like at the same time, and you know this. How the fuck did you come across that video to me? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how you stumbled on it?
I think what happened was I was watching an old episode of Drums, and they started showing their hosts like they start showing it to him, like, and just to hear his reaction live, and he just started screaming and squealing, and I was like, okay, what the fuck is this Ninja Turtles? So I looked at, because they were playing like, I think they were playing like Turtles in Time, and one of them brought it up. So I looked it up and was like, oh my god, this is horrible. And then forgot about it for like years until we started talking about Ninja Turtles again way more.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I think one of the weirdest things about Injustice 1 is I think they were afraid people were going to hate the story and were going to think it was like a bastardization of these characters and is like evil and horrible. Like they thought they were going to get completely annihilated if they just told the story as it was, and it was like, oh, Superman turns evil and becomes a fascist dictator. So they had to go have a universe where Superman is still a good guy just to assure newcomers and like, you know, the angry fans that, no, we're not saying Superman is evil, we're saying that there is a evil Superman, which is like, you know, with the Justice Lords and like Ultraman from the fucking...
Okay, so I googled it
Worlds.
just to make sure, Australia man. So like, yes, Italy did originate pizza, but like, original pizza from Naples is very different from the pizza that like you and I will eat on a daily basis. That's more like American pizza, where Italian immigrants came and had like their own pizza, but it like evolved to like be something a little bit different from what original Neapolitan pizza is, because Neapolitan pizza is a sort of very specific thing. And in Italy, you'll eat it with like a fork and a knife, and it's a little bit more of a formal thing, versus in America where you'll have it a little bit more casual. So if you're eating like casual, regular pizza, then it's American. You
Well,
can't.
That's not what the thing was. That's not what the whole debacle was.
I don't care!
It says American or not.
I don't care!
It's not American.
I don't care!
You guys are losers.
No, I just
Obviously,
obviously,
I'm the loser here. I'm sorry, I'm the loser.
Yes.
But yeah, in order to make people not get upset at this story, they had to like basically make it the DC version of Mirror Mirror. Because like, I think Aquaman in the alternate evil universe flat out has an evil goatee.
Huh.
We'll have to see when he shows up.
He does, I think. No, yeah, I'm certain he does.
Because the reason all this shit started basically is because there was an episode of Star Trek in the 60s where they accidentally shift over to an alternate universe where Starfleet isn't like, you know, this big
It's the Empire.
Like, good
It's
military.
the Terran
Yeah,
Empire.
it's basically like Star Trek's Empire in this alternate universe.
And it's
in
kind
that
of hilarious because like everybody is almost like cartoonishly evil. Everybody who's good is
Yeah.
like evil, but they're not like normal evil. They're like cartoon, like Starscream and
that
Megatron
universe,
level of evil.
Spock has a fucking goatee, and that's how you can tell the difference. Is that the evil version has the goatee?
And Star Trek and like and then Captain Kirk shows up and teaches like Mirror Spock that like, hey, we can be good, you know, we can
do good things.
You can not be evil. And then there's a little bit more interesting complications later on in like the Mirror universe, because they like each universe sort of subtly affects the other in interesting ways. Like how in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, what happens is that we see that there was the influence of Kirk and Spock to like try and make the Terran influence universe more peaceful. But because of that, an alliance of the Klingons and the Cardassians take over everything. And then, because of that, the humans are now slaves, and there's a revolt, which is like an interesting twist.
You didn't hear what I said.
No, I was just too busy.
The Kardashians on Star Trek?
Yes, and they're evil.
No,
Like,
no.
literally everybody makes that joke. So one of my favorite things right now... So one of my favorite things right now is this, there's a Twitter account called Real Gul Dukat. So, like, Gul Dukat in Star Trek Deep Space Nine is one of the villains. And and it's literally just him, like, tweeting like the president does. Like, not to get super political or anything, but it makes fun of, like, the president by comparing him to this, like, evil supervillain, and I find that pretty funny.
There's also that account that just takes real Trump quotes and then just puts them in word bubbles being spoken by Red Skull. And
Yeah, it's called President Supervillain, and it's hilarious.
You know, I have a problem with the Flash.
Tell me more.
Why does he? Okay, he's broken, overpowered, but like they don't ever call attention to it because he gets beat constantly by like normal people. But he can and has like moved faster than light, and it's like, what? How does that work? Does he need to like charge it up to be able to go that fast? Is it like he can't just instantly do it or something? Like, does he need to like warm up to that speed or something? Because I've seen like panels of him talking about how he can perceive time in an attosecond, which is like the smallest unit of time measurable, and like he can like basically teleport. He's so fast, or like he's like walking around just looking at bullets in midair as if they're frozen because he's so fast. And it's like, how does anyone ever like tag him? How would anyone ever get a hit? He could kill anything, and he could solve all crime on Earth in like an afternoon if he's really that fucking fast. Like, he could just run everywhere and find where every criminal is hiding, and while in like the blink of an eye, just completely disarm them and then put them in handcuffs. Like, I don't understand. Why is he not? How can he be that fast but also not be that fast? There's like a paradox there. What? How does that fucking work? Can someone explain this to me in a way that makes sense?
Well, you see, he just chooses not. Oh man. I think I brought that argument to high school once, and this is possible. He just chooses not to. Like in trying, it was in like a conversation about the Flash TV show. Isn't he supposed to be like faster than speed of light before he can teleport? Why doesn't he do all of this? And he unironically said because he just doesn't want to. Fucking.
Aiden Rodriguez says in the comments, I love that in this underwater layer, there's books with made out of paper.
Maybe there's some kind of special Atlantean underwater paper.
That's it. That's
What
probably
doesn't
it.
get wet?
Oh, look! It's evil mirror Aquaman with a goatee.
Yeah, does he got the goatee?
He does.
Yeah, that's how you know it's an evil universe version, is because he's got a goatee.
And a different suit.
Fucking Injustice Superman should have a beard.
I would love that. Like,
I
she
like
should
the
also.
idea of just everyone in this universe has a beard or a different haircut to establish that it's the Injustice versions of them.
No, but then you get like stands and be like, "Oh, boo! Superman is so hot with the beard," and then it's gonna ruin it for everyone.
Ooh, small bean Tom Holland.
Oh, Superman just annihilated a fucking orphanage, but it's okay. He's got a beard. He looks so cute. Ooh, woo. Little baby.
He's an unproblematic small bean.
Small baby. Oh, he's so soft. He's so delicate.
People did that with fucking Anakin Skywalker. Remember, he killed a fucking like room full of children in the Jedi Academy.
Diced up that
everybody was
room
like,
full of little kids. He decapitated a bunch of like 5-year-olds, and then people like now his stands on Twitter are like, he had a very good reason to be upset. He just wanted to help the people he loved. Everyone just misunderstood him.
This is a society in which we live.
I fucking love
hate it.
that Kylo Ren stands and Anakin Skywalker stands are equally stupid and make the same arguments in favor of their respective character actually being a good guy despite doing the horrible things constantly.
Also,
And
I just
top
wanted
it
to.
off, they hate each other.
I love
Anakin
it.
stands and Kylo Ren stands
I've
fucking
changed
despise
my
each other.
That's fucking funny. I didn't know that.
Awesome.
Also, I just wanted to notice for the record that the social app Spider-Man, I removed your comment a moment ago because just so you guys know, if you're not aware, the point of this stream is to avoid the politics for at least a quick moment. So I recognize that you're talking about the Joe Bidens, but please avoid that in the future. Oh wow, I'm getting my ass kicked real hard right now.
Joker became president for a bit, or tried to? Remember
No, it was
when Lex
Lex
Luthor
Luthor.
actually became a president? Well, I was most referencing the fucking Lego. But then I'm like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah, artist familiar with that. So
Ah!
remember when
watching
Lex
a lot more-
Luthor became president?
Wait, what?
When Lex Luthor became president. Callback.
Asshole.
Shit.
You know what?
You're on.
Because we just got HBO Max last week. I've just been marathoning DC movies and like finally catching up on a lot of the animated ones. Like rewatching ones from I haven't seen in like a couple years, and like just trying to get a better sense of them. And like I thought the Batman Superman Public Enemies one, which I've read the book that's based on, really similar to the movie. It's almost like scene for scene. But I thought that one was really cool, and I liked it a lot, where evil President Lex Luthor is trying to... He basically frames Superman for murder, and then uses his status as president to just turn the entire world against him. And won't let him help with a problem that really only a superhero could deal with. It was a cool story.
Oh my god, that sounds similar to what Zack Snyder did in the hit movie Batman vs Superman. Oh my god, his take on Superman is so comic accurate, guys. You guys are just haters. you see how comic accurate Batman's suit looks? Oh my god, we use it so comic accurate. You guys just fucking hate.
Looks accurate. That doesn't mean it.
Oh, you know how Batman uses a fucking sniper as like a grappling hook and or tracking device? He does that in the comics, kinda. That's so comic accurate, guys.
Ooh,
You guys just
woo. Small bean Tom Holland.
Look, you
But
know
yeah.
how Bruce Wayne put his hand in his pocket that one time in the comics, and you know how Ben Affleck did that once in the movie? Oh my god, it's so comic accurate.
Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, I also watched all of the post-Flashpoint animated movies. Honestly,
good?
I liked the way they were doing Superman in those animated movies better before the Flashpoint thing, because he was a lot more he was just a lot more down to earth and just chill and a nice guy. He just felt more like Superman.
Hello,
And-
Marvel DC fan reviews. Welcome.
His recurring love interest was always Lois Lane, and we got to see him develop his friendship with Batman and his cousin Supergirl, who was introduced in the original set of movies. But then the Flashpoint thing happened and reset all of those movies to be
Hey, look at how
a
different
little bit more
Ares looks
consistent
from-
single universe.
Hey, look at how different Ares looks from the Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, he's not an elderly British man with a mustache.
Tip-top cheerio, lad. It's the exact same person, I tell you.
That whole thing was fine to me. I just don't like that there's a fucking flashback to him when he's younger and he's a Greek god, but he's still this pasty white fucking British dude with a cartoonish handlebar mustache, and he's looking up at Zeus and is like, I shall have my revenge. It's just a Greek god with a mustache. It's so funny. Maybe he can have beards or a clear face, but just a mustache by itself just looks fucking hilarious. But then the Flashpoint stuff happened, and they like rebooted those animated movies to be like one really consistent universe, barring a few like side exceptions. But like suddenly Superman started being like way more fucking aggressive and angry, and like was just like beating the fuck out of people, and was like a little bit more edgy. And he had the new 52 costume, and they put a lot of emphasis on him having sex with Wonder Woman constantly, and then it like kind of just fizzled out at some point between movies. I don't know where they resolved it. Maybe I haven't seen all of them or something. But for like 3 or 4 of those movies, he's dating Wonder Woman, and then just at some point off screen they break up or something, and then in the Death of Superman movie he's with Lois now. It's like, when did that happen? Did I miss one of them?
No.
Because I feel like I watched all of them that were on there, like, and the ones that weren't on there, I even went to go like find what was it? I think it was Justice League versus Teen Titans. No, maybe that was on there. No, it was Judas Contract. I checked out that one. I'm having a hard time remembering which ones are on HBO Max and which ones weren't. But anyway, I went to go look at the other movies in the DC animated movie universe timeline, and like I just can't make sense of it. I just feel like I'm missing one.
I don't think you're missing any of the movies. It's just like that. The
weird.
Death of Superman is just a bunch of and this happened.
Well, because it was like
Lois
it was
Superman,
an adaptation of the '90s story, and like that story hasn't happened in New 52. That one's like ancient history in that timeline. So like they had to kind of make it fit in New 52, but it didn't. Weird.
How are you even alive?
Yeah.
What dog
Okay,
is barking
it was,
in the background there?
That's my dog.
Which
I don't
one?
know what he wants. It's Lopez the pug. Lopez, stop!
I love Lopez.
Oh,
He's a
think
good
he,
doggo.
I think he like sees something outside or something. Sometimes he just like barks at squirrels. Let me go check.
No.
Just wear your headphones so you can be sure that you will remember what we're saying.
He's gonna get
So, how's everybody in the chat doing? Hope you're all doing okay this lovely and unremarkable Tuesday.
Yeah, nothing is happening.
Absolutely nothing is happening this Tuesday. Oh, technically it's Wednesday for you in Australia, though, isn't it?
It is. It's Wednesday the 4th, hence why nothing is happening on my end.
So, Anna Banana says, I love Panda and Stimpy and Monkey. Yeah, his cats are very cute too, but there's also his pug, Lopez, who's also very cute. Marvel DC fan reviews. Good to see you're doing okay. Waffles for lunch. Tired. I'm sorry about that. Take a nap or do something, relax. Or hang around a little bit longer if you want. That's all good too. Oh, socially inept Spider-Man has a girlfriend, and he's passing time with her, so like, good for that,
Yo, where's Zach?
Where's Zach and his girlfriend?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend.
Oh, hey guys, I'm Zach, and I've got a girlfriend. I'm so quirky and fun and social and stuff.
Hey, you know what? Let's give him a break because he chilled out on that. However, now he's basically doing the exact same thing with the fact that he works at Nintendo.
Oh, did you know that he worked? I did.
Every few days.
It's funny. I know.
Did you guys know I work at Nintendo?
I never heard that before from him, so this is news for me.
No, he's tweeted a couple of times. I'm just like, oh, that's cool.
Anna Banana
things about working at Nintendo.
So Anna said,
I'm quitting my job today. Tomorrow I work at Nintendo. He keeps fucking going.
Anna says having a girlfriend is gay. I mean, well, for her,
Well, I think it's a matter of perspective.
Well, if Anna had a girlfriend, it would be gay.
Hence why I think it's a matter of perspective.
Well, that's not a matter of perspective. That's a matter of your gender identity.
Hence a matter of perspective.
If you identify as male, then it's not gay. Well, it is kind of gay because she likes dick. So, like, that is kind of gay.
How is that refuting
and
what I'm saying?
if you identify as a girl, then it's lesbian, and you're also gay. And if you're neither male nor female, then you're gay no matter what. So, like, having a girlfriend is automatically gay no matter which perspective you have. So there you go.
I dream of a future where we can just drop these labels and it'll just be just people dating people.
What are you, fucking pansexual, you dumbass?
I want to live in the fucking super awesome bisexual future of Mass Effect where just everyone just fucks everyone, including the space aliens.
Anna says,
That's
regardless,
the
if you have a
utopia we
girlfriend,
should
you're
strive
gay.
towards. There's no gay or straight in the future of Mass Effect. There's just, what do you like? I like this. Alright, I'm gonna put a whole bunch of that in your face. And then Commander Shepard goes, oh!
But then why are you gaming like that day? They don't know
It doesn't matter what gender you are or what species you are. Commander Shepard will motorboat you. They're fucking awesome. I love.
Well, do you know
Mass
what?
Effect.
Do you know what else is?
My favorite Mass Effect.
So here's
When the animations glitch out. That's so cool. I love the one where, like, she's talking about being civil and her body just like warps into forms in a demonic like exorcism type way.
Man,
Her hand is like flipping through her body.
It's been years since I thought about Mass Effect Andromeda and how fucked up it was. I didn't even finish that one. Cause,
hey,
you know what? Yeah. What was that, dude?
You know what else is gay besides having a girlfriend?
What?
Not having a girlfriend.
Damn, that's pretty gay, bro.
Damn it, why are you gay? He's typing.
Well, anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so me and my buddy Jackson in high school over the summer, one summer, him and I played every Mass Effect game all the way through, like to almost 100% completion. We did like all the really story relevant side quests, and like played all of the extra little, mini storylines and the DLCs. Like we really went for it and like just played the fuck out of those games so that he could like really get a good idea of them and what they're like. And we had a blast, even though Mass Effect 3 was like has a really the last like 10 hours of that game are like kind of dog shit. We still had fun with it anyway because we could just like laugh at it together. But then he got Mass Effect Andromeda because he was like, alright, well, I guess we'll see what happens next, because, maybe a year or so later, that game came out. And so I went over to his house, and we played maybe 3 hours of it, and got so tired from just that we turned it off, and I don't think either of us ever touched it again. I don't even know if he's completed it at his house by himself in his own time. And mind you, it wasn't like a matter of like being impatient, because we played like fucking 60 hours of content and all the other fucking things. But that one, just something was so off about it that he just could not get into it. And we were just like, yeah. I'll have to ask him if he ever ended up finishing that.
The only thing I actually remember about Mass Effect Andromeda is remember all the bugs on the internet about it?
Yeah.
All the visual glitches?
Yeah.
Well,
oh yeah, because they use like a different engine from all the previous games, and like the new one is just.
And
like,
they weren't used to working with it yet, and they didn't have the time to work out all the bugs because
there was also just like a certain level of incompetence, because some of the things that were going wrong were not a glitch. It was just people not knowing how to do their job properly. Because there's flat out a fucking scene where the character pulls out a gun and is holding it backwards in one of the scenes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
And that just comes
I think
down to the
they got a
animators
bunch-
not knowing what they're doing.
They got a bunch of like amateurs, like literally amateurs, who are super
Well,
didn't have like any experience in this, and they're like, make a AAA game, and they're like,
They
okay.
said that they wanted to like, have like a bunch of fresh new faces in the industry and try something a little different. But like,
You know what that sounds like
they
to
have
me?
you can't.
Hey, you know what that sounds
yeah.
like to me? It sounds like an attempt to exploit up-and-coming talent and avoid unionization and paying talent the amount that they're due. You know?
Yeah, instead of getting people who are expensive and good at their jobs, we'll get people who are passable at the job, and we can underpay the fuck out of them.
Because they're new at the thing.
It's
I
called.
wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened.
I mean, that's why that's why Americans outsource all their animation to Asia these days, or at least TV animation.
Harleen.
Maybe. Yeah.
A little bird told me some creep was dressed up like the Joker.
I mean, there's a lot of outsourcing of the game industry, but it's like to other big studios. Like,
I mean,
I think Insomniac had a little bit to do with.
Well, it's
and
pretty
James
normal
was
to
a very small
outsource at least a little bit of work, but
Well, I mean,
it's
The
a
Lost of Us
problem
had
when
a lot
you
of things outsourced.
it just becomes a problem when you're doing it to avoid unionization and paying people the talent, paying people the money that they deserve.
Definitely. Like, I get hiring new people, but not at the expense of like getting rid of the talent that like, makes or breaks the project that you're working on. Because at the end of the day, you gotta like. You gotta make a decision and make a choice of what you want to sacrifice. Oh, Anna said the Last of Us 2 animation was done by like 80% Filipino. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Filipinos are cool.
Well, also, you can pay them less than you would pay Americans, so. It's the reason why they also do a lot of animation in Canada is because there's a favorable exchange rate, which means that American studios get to pay less for foreign talent.
That's shitty.
Yeah.
Is that what happened with Sausage Party?
Yeah. Well, also like that studio is like that's basically their business model. Is underpaying their animators to fuck and then passing the savings on to the studio.
Ugh.
I thought they did everything in-house. No, dude, no fucking way they did all of that in-house. They had to outsource so many things.
Mm-hmm.
They do that a lot of the time.
There's not a single, like, here's the thing, is that a small indie developer, like developer of Among Us or something like that, they will do everything in-house.
Yeah,
but
it's indie.
It's indie, because it's small. A game, there is not a single AAA game that does not outsource at least something. It's practical. It's there's a reason why a Hollywood movie outsources their VFX to like 10 different companies. It's like, okay, you do this sequence, you do this sequence, you do this sequence, so they can just get it all done more efficiently. There isn't a single game that doesn't do it. It's not an unhealthy thing in and of itself.
It reduces the amount of like overwhelming work, and it gets stuff done a lot faster, so that like a single company doesn't have to worry about like a fucking.
And you have to meet your
like,
corporate
30 different
deadlines
things.
somehow.
Yeah, it's effective. It's time. Yeah, time effective. It's practical, and it doesn't stress out the one company that you're getting to work on the thing.
It's not him.
Like, it's not a bad thing. It's good.
DNA matches Bruce Wayne's, but his vital
Unless you underpay the people. In which
Unless
case it's
unless
really
you're
shitty.
using it as an excuse to just be fucking cheap.
Well, they're doing
Yeah,
both at the
or
same
that.
time. Is usually the case.
Yeah.
Like, I think Insomniac was outsourced by Naughty Dog to work on The Last of Us. Again, grain of salt, I don't know that for a fact, but I heard something like that. And if that's the case, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, good for them, maybe, but...
So look, it's the Joker clan.
You know what? I miss the Resistance series. The game series that Insomniac was doing before Spider-Man. It's this, like, really cool, like, alternate history sci-fi first-person shooter game where in the 40s this, like, basically mutant race of like hyper advanced like freakazoid alien creatures just takes over the world. So like World War II doesn't even happen.
So Bombastic
because
AR
everyone's
said something funny in the chat. He said, "I find it hilarious that the evil Wonder Woman has giant boobs compared to the original one, or the normal one." Evil means boobs.
Plastic surgery.
Yeah, there's this weird thing with the Injustice universe where Wonder Woman is a fucking asshole before anything bad even happens. Like, because I read the Injustice Year One comic. That's like there's like 5 years of backstory to lead the Injustice universe to the point that it's at, where, you know, Batman is like, I need to go get another Superman to beat this one up because he's being such a bitch. So there's like there's this weird thing where in Injustice Year One, anytime Superman is like really conflicted about doing something bad, Wonder Woman, who desperately wants to straddle his laser eyes, goes, "You should do the worst possible thing you can imagine." So, like, in order to get Aquaman to be on their side, yeah, and of course Shazam is just like a dumb little kid who just does whatever Superman tells him because it's Superman, but Wonder Woman, Superman, and Shazam all lift up the entirety of Atlantis and then go set it down in the Gobi Desert as like a power move to make Aquaman comply. And like, anytime Superman is like, "Hey, this seems like we're starting to be like a little bit bad guys," then Wonder Woman just goes, "Yeah, but you're, you know, that's how you be the goodest good guy, is to act kind of like the bad guy." And it's like, if Wonder Woman was characterized properly, like a lot of bad shit in this timeline would have just probably not happened. It all comes down to her being like a bad influence.
They comment on that in Injustice 2, and I really liked where they were heading. They completely just threw that out the toilet. Because I really thought at midway through the story, Superman was gonna like realize how much of a fuck up he's done, and he was gonna try to like, I don't know, change, like, or try to like redeem himself in some way by like doing the right thing. But by the end of the story, he just goes back to like how he started, and like there was no point to like, any of his characterization. Because, I mean, the point of a story is to get the characters from point A to point B with some sort of conflict. Like, that conflict is supposed to be the experience that changes the character. And I thought Superman was going to get some of that, but he didn't. It's still the same old Brad, despite, like, everything that happened, despite everything that was leading up to it, and I hated that.
Yeah, I don't like alternate universes where all the heroes become fucking assholes, because it's just so bleak and depressing to me. You know? Like, is it too much to ask that just, like, we have a... You know...
Here's why I like the Mirror Universe in Star Trek so much, is because, like, in the Mirror Universe of Star Trek, what they are is that they're just cartoonishly evil. So, like, they don't even bother, like, being, like, trying to make it, like, character, like, the same character, like, an exact opposite. It's, like, they're so cartoonishly evil that it's fun to watch them just ham it up and be completely different.
Yeah, you're not getting depressed over, like, the idea of, like, oh, Kirk is now a weird fascist supervillain terrorist guy, but and because it wasn't, like, in this universe he had, like, a faulty race. It's just like, oh, this is just a universe where everyone's a fucking stereotypical bad guy. Like, they have more mustaches to twirl. So, like, you don't have to get hung up on it, but, like, shit like the Injustice universe just depresses me, because it's like, man, imagine just like living here in like just an accidentally bad timeline where Superman just decided to kill everyone.
It would make for a really good horror story. Because I watched
someone tried to make a movie like that and then they fucked it up.
Well, I watched the podcast that you and Anna did not long ago, and you were talking about like horror movies and what it means for something to be a horror movie. And you just said that it's basically coming down to like feeling uncomfortable and like asking yourself, what would I have done in this situation? And like just talking about the Injustice thing now, I'm just like kind of lights so that you guys are talking about. And I
bashed them
out. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Like maybe from a perspective of like the good guys, like this unpredictable supernatural villain. who like takes his time in torturing like everybody who opposes him. I think that'd be a really cool horror movie. But I don't want them to do that as well because they would have more like Superman is evil stories. You have so much. But if like they started it out that way, I would have loved it.
Yeah, I'm just tired of someone in a like when I talked about how I didn't like it on Twitter, someone on there, one of my followers replied with, "Yeah, but that's when he's most interesting." And I was like, then you just don't fucking like Superman. Just admit that. Like, you just hate that character. That's not when he's interesting. That's when he's just a different character. You know? Like, that's not Superman anymore.
I have a lot of misconceptions about him. Because, like, he's... Yeah, he is a Boy Scout, but that's not who he is.
Oh my gosh! I'm sorry, I interrupt. I just had to say, I love how like the evil Nightwing has like this really cartoonish like emo beard. He has the emo hair, and I love it.
Oh, well, because it's Damian Wayne who's playing fucking
thing because he just died over the
Well, by this point. That was year one. By this point, Damian Wayne has now become an evil Nightwing to replace Dick after killing him.
Yeah, didn't Nightwing like basically give us this speech? He's like, "Yeah, you're my successor now."
Oh, you know that makes this whole Joker beats up. That makes this whole Joker beats up Nightwing thing a lot darker.
That it's Batman's son.
Yes.
Son. And the original Nightwing died.
Man, Nightwing's like arguably one of my favorites. Like even more than that.
He gets shafted so fucking hard in the Justice universe because he just trips and hits his head on a rock.
Yeah, like
and then
Damian Wayne and then throws his stick on his head and he just loses balance and hits his head on a rock. And then he dies. And I'm like, that's the silliest cartoonish thing ever.
I mean, it's like, it's kind of shocking in how real it is, because just shit like that just happens. Sometimes you just hit your head on a rock and that's it.
So, like, would that
But,
mean like someone were to make an alternate story about Spider-Man dying, he just slips on a wet rooftop and cracks his head open on the pavement?
Well, when you're trying to go for, like, gritty realism, that shit works, but that's a little bit too Garth Ennis for my taste, or at least, like, in context of being a DC story. But, like, I get, well, because, you know, Garth Ennis is all about, like, really realistic kind of, you know,
there's been a death in the family.
I guess cynical violence. You know, like, sometimes he'll just have characters in his stories just like, you know, in The Boys, like the comic version. There's a guy who just fucking just sees someone about to get crushed by some falling construction equipment, and then pushes them out of the way, and then just gets smushed to death. And like, you know, it wasn't like a big heroic like final battle or like a really elaborate death scene. Or there's a major character in that who just dies because someone just gets angry and just stabs him with a piece of metal. Even though it's two characters who are like superheroes, so it could have been something a lot more dramatic. He tries to ground it in reality by having deaths be just like really like down to earth and normal, and it works to a degree in making them a little bit more disturbing.
So anyway, I just wanted to change the subject for a second and say that if you ever want to watch some escapist television, you can always watch Babylon 5, which a major plot point is an Earth growing increasingly xenophobic towards its neighbors and not wanting to have more immigration of aliens to the Earth, and where it becomes increasingly authoritarian after one of the politicians lies and does bad things and goes into fascism. So like, that's something that's absolutely not happening right now. So it's some good escapism. But it's actually like a really good show. And I'm sorry, I just want Xavier to watch the fucking show already, because
I know. I keep like watching like little bits of it at a time when you're over here,
And like
I don't
never.
know, it's just-
It's a
one
good
of these
show.
days
You need to
I'll
watch
sit
it.
down and devote the time to it. It's just
It's
like,
like-
I got to be in the right mood.
It's better than Star Trek, and I'm saying that from Star Trek fans' perspective. It's like really, really good, and it's very. I don't know. I just saw something on Twitter about it, and I was like, it.
Why are you browsing Twitter during our video game?
I'm not
live?
browsing this on Twitter. I saw this like yesterday. I was just thinking about it. There was this like quote from this one scene where this one character said, "Oh, I just want everything to be like it was before. That's what I want. I want us to be great like we were in the past." And you know, there's absolutely nothing political about a conservative person saying, "I wish we could be great like we were before." You know?
He lost at this. Even with what Joker did. In Superman's mind, he destroyed
So
Metropolis.
anyway,
I think that what you were saying sarcastically is the reason I'm probably not looking at it right now. Is
But
because
here's
that
the
show
thing.
I feel like would depress me.
I
It's
mean,
like
it,
it's close to home.
well,
it's
it
not
does
actually
that.
escape entertainment.
It does that, but it also shows a lot of other really interesting stuff. I think what's really... Hello, Buster Core. Welcome to our little gathering on this very uneventful Tuesday. I was just saying that I think that one of the things that was really... One of the things that I really like about Babylon 5 is that it's all about... It feels very... All of the characters and all the situations are very human in the sense that they could happen in the real world, but it's also very humanistic in a way that Star Trek isn't, because it shows a side of humanity that you don't really see in Star Trek. Like, there's not a
because
lot
like
of
people are flawed.
there's not a lot of doubts in Star Trek. One of my favorite scenes in Babylon 5 is there's this scene at the end of an episode. So in this episode, the whole plot is there's the subplot of how, because it's a space station where all these different races interact, right? So they're having like a cultural exchange. We'll show you our religion, we'll show you theirs. And then this whole plot in one of the episodes where the captain has to decide, oh, what am I going to show for the Earth religion? And then at the end of the episode, what it is they just had a lineup, and there's like, okay, here's this person, he's an atheist. Here's this person, he's a Christian. Here's a Jew, here's a Muslim. And then they just had a lineup of people and says, here, talk to them. And I thought that was really cool.
that's a very JMS thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I
JMS
fucking
is
love
like
JMS.
JMS is
awesome.
wonderful.
He's the Chad.
And he wrote
You
the
know-
TV show, so like, you guys love his Spider-Man run, you should watch this show. It's like that, but like science fiction in an original sci-fi universe, and it's brilliant. It's beautiful.
We should have a fucking like group call and just watch it all together. Like,
You should,
marathon
you
as
should.
much as we could.
I used to like, because here's what I do, is that every year when I was in high school, I used to watch Babylon 5 like every year, because it was that good. And like basically what would happen is that I would get this point into like season 3, beginning of season 4, where I would just be utterly wrecked. And I would just emotionally, like, I can't do anything but just watch this show for the next however long I'm gonna take until it's done. I was like, emotionally, I can't do anything else right now.
Man, I feel like ever since just JMS leaving Spider-Man the way he did, like
Yeah.
every time I go to watch or read something that he's done, I feel kind of depressed because he's just been like, he's a really talented writer. He was created by the company that, like, I don't know.
Have you read his new
Did he say
stuff?
he
Because
enjoyed working on Marvel.
what
Like, did he confirm that?
what he's doing right now, he retired from comics for a while. But what he's doing right now is that he so a bunch of like ex guys from the other like comic book companies, they started this sort of like thing where they're founding like a whole new like comic book universe. And one of the and he's part of that. He's part of like the brain trust for that. And he wrote like this other like comic for them called The Resistance, which is like one of like the first things that start this universe going. And like I haven't read any of that, but I think it's JMS, so it's got to be good. Buster Core.
Unless it's Sensei.
So Buster Core is talking about watching and getting into the other Star Treks. Like, here's the thing: is that if you like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek and you watching like new Star Trek, then those are two very like different things. So you should be prepared for watching a show that's a little bit slower and a little bit more cerebral, and it can be cartoony at times.
It's like kind of like a political drama in space.
Yeah, and also like be prepared for a lot of like not very cartoony effects, and like a lot of people being very sort of like calm and talking about problems and issues. And it's like what Social Net Spider-Man is saying in the chat. It's gay space communism Star Trek. It's not what you expect from the movies. So it's a little bit different. I like it a lot more. I recommend my personal favorite Star Trek is Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager. You can start with Season 3 of Star Trek The Next Generation, because the first two seasons are absolute dog shit and you shouldn't watch them ever. Season 3 through 7 is pretty good on Star Trek TNG. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is the one that all the non-Star Trek fans like. It's the most adult, it's the darkest, it's the most mature, and the most sort of complicated in terms of its themes. So if that's what you're looking for, Star Trek Deep Space Nine is the best. Also, it was basically wholesale ripped off from Babylon 5, so there's that too.
Hang on, I'm gonna go let Lopez in. Continue talking.
Star Trek Voyager is kind of a garbage show. It's kind of like the things we're doing aren't working like they should be sort of show. I don't like it quite as much. But I like it a lot. Actually, it's not that I don't like it quite as much, it's just that other people don't like it quite as much. It's just kind of a... I have a soft spot for it, because it was what I watched the most as a kid, so...
Wasn't that the one that we watched a couple of episodes? Was that
I think I watched a lot of Next Gen with you, so that's probably what you're thinking of. A Dreamer is asking why he can't do super chats, and the reason for that is that this channel isn't eligible for that yet because there's not enough subscribers. So if you want to, at one point, do super chats for me, you should tell your friends about us so we can get more people to watch this thing and subscribe.
Yeah, friends subscribe. Subscribe.
How many subs does this channel have?
84, so
And we
subscribe.
need 1,000 to get monetized?
I think 1,000 and like 20,000 views or something like that.
Oh, God. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, God gracious.
So it's a whole thing. So just, we will be there eventually is what I'm hoping, so.
How many views do you have? Is there a way to check?
I have a little bit over 1,000 in the channel and overall, like 1,500 maybe. Yeah.
Let's go. It won't be long before Superman knows we're here.
So, I have a question for you that's completely unrelated to like Star Trek and everything else, which is, how are we feeling about the Suicide Squad movie with James Gunn?
Excited. I think his Guardians of the Galaxy was really good, and considering that they wanted, at one point, to make the original Suicide Squad like the Guardians of the Galaxy, like, I mean,
No dinner this evening?
it kind of speaks for itself.
And there was that bit on... There was also that bit on Twitter where James Gunn said that anybody could die in it, theoretically. He said that what DC said is that they didn't tell him that he couldn't kill anyone. So there's somebody who's probably gonna die.
Well, he's even also said that it's a hard conversation to have with an actor to tell them you're killing off their character, especially when they've played before. And that, to me, I feel like because he didn't really mention anything related to, like, Yondu or something, I think that he meant that in context of something with Suicide Squad's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm interested to see what happens there.
My money-
But overall, I'm just not, like, super into just Suicide Squad as, like, a premise. Like,
But that's the interesting thing about
I
it
don't know.
also, because maybe James Gunn can do what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, is just, make it his sort of own thing and reinvent it in that sense.
yeah.
Hello, Jock552. Welcome to the thing. And a wise man named Euphoric Lenny said, in other words, be sure to smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell and like and subscribe and all that stuff. Yes, do that, unironically, please.
That's not what he said. Not entirely. You
I ad-libbed, okay? I'm allowed...
Fuck up.
Gonna throw a rock at Superman.
But yeah,
anyway,
Suicide
I don't
Squad.
care much for Suicide Squad, and I get a little annoyed how much they push it as, like, the next big thing, just because it's, like, so far, none of it's really, like, done it for me.
So what
Like,
are... So what
I didn't
DC...
like Assault on Arkham, I didn't like Hell to Pay, I didn't like the movie version of it. Like, I've yet to see, like, a Suicide Squad adaptation that has made me go, like, okay, here's why
a
they
question
keep shoving
for
it
you.
in their fucking face so much.
Here's a question. What of the DC movies that are upcoming are you looking forward to the most?
The
Flash.
Batman. Whoa,
And
really?
the Batman. Well, because
Well, yeah,
the
no,
Flash is
they've
doing...
got a bunch of versions.
They're
of
doing
Batman.
that whole multiverse concept, which sounds cool, and we get to see Michael Keaton Batman come back, like, digitally de-aged, so that sounds, like, super cool.
Here's
'Cause
my
it's just
hot
really,
take.
like, out there.
Here's my hot take for you. I'm not actually looking forward to The Flash that much. My reasoning is that it's gone through like 5 directors and writers by now, and they finally settled on the guy who directed It Part 1 and 2. And like, that adaptation is very sort of corporate and crowd-pleasing, it's very exactly what the studio wanted out of that.
Probably
So
just as
my
handsome.
fear is that they hired a guy who they knew would do exactly what they wanted with this, instead of all the other guys who wanted to try something a little bit more interesting. So I'm worried about that.
That's completely valid.
Yeah.
I'm actually behind you.
It's always one of the... I always get leery when there's one of those projects that has, like, 5 different directing teams, like, working on it, and, like, at some point you have to wonder why nobody is sticking to the project. I have the same reasoning for why I'm not really that into the Uncharted movie, because, like, first it was going to be Travis Knight, then it was going to be the guy who directed 10 Cloverfield Lane, and then it was the guy who directed fucking Venom. So, like...
It was in dev hell for like 5 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was... And, like, if you're having that many different people coming and going, I just wonder what went wrong,
Yeah, what's so bad about it that no one can...
Why is the studio not happy with any of these people?
I mean, I guess the same could be said of Doctor Strange 2. Although, like...
No, that's not the case, because
Sam
Doctor
Raimi,
Strange
I love
2...
Sam Raimi.
Well, Doctor Strange 2 only had 2 people. It was Scott Derrickson.
It didn't, yeah. It
And then it was Sam
hire
Raimi.
15 directors.
It didn't have a
like,
revolving door of 5 writing teams and 3 different directors.
So it'll
So, like,
probably be a little bit more toned down.
So it's a little
And
less
another thing,
suspicious, is what
our
you're saying.
But then again,
Is better looking.
late period Sam Raimi has been pretty corporate, so... Anybody see Oz the Great and Powerful?
I feel like whenever people talk about Sam Raimi as like the god king of all directors, they have only seen Spider-Man and maybe Evil Dead.
I still want to watch...
If I sat down, I feel like certain people in this community who hype him up so much, if I sat down and asked them, have you ever heard of the film Darkman? None of them would say yes.
I want to watch Darkman sometime. I really do.
Darkman's fucking weird and awesome.
So,
It's a
Euphoric
nice-
Lenny's mentioning in the chat for the Uncharted movie that Tom Holland looks nothing like Nathan Drake. And I think that that's a good thing and a bad
but I'm the
thing.
one to beat.
And that's kind of pointing out what is what the weird thing about this movie is going to be, is that it looks nothing like the live action. It looks nothing like, it's going to be doing its own thing from the game, so it's not going to be like, oh, what stories from the games is it going to be? It's going to be like the origin story that they kind of sort of hinted at in the fourth one, but it's going to be just that.
I'm not a fan of that. Tom Holland looks nothing like, costume aside, he looks nothing like Nathan Drake.
Well,
Like-
my problem stems from the fact that I can't picture him as a wisecracking badass action hero, which is a real problem. Because, like,
Have you seen MCU's Disney's Marvel's Spider-Man TM Homecoming and Far From Home?
all I'm imagining, because of just like, I will say, Tom Holland is great in Devil all the time. That movie is awesome, and he's like really good in it as a character that's not fucking Spider-Morty. But I'm imagining he's gonna. I just keep worrying that Nathan Drake is gonna now be Spider-Morty. He's gonna be Morty Drake. He's gonna be like, oh, geez, Sully, you gotta let me go on this trip with you. Maybe we can find the treasure together. And then Mark Wahlberg, Sully's like, nah, kid, it's too dangerous. You can't go with me. There's too many Vietnamese people in this island. I gotta punch them all myself.
Hey, although I will say,
Oh, well, that's a little out
But I'm
there.
the one to beat.
I will say, hey, I will say though, however, it is true. There is one thing that we can truly thank the Uncharted movie for. Do you want to know what that is? That there will be a Spider-Man 3.
There will be or won't be?
That there will be, because remember how they weren't gonna have a Spider-Man 3 because of the dispute between Sony Pictures and Disney, right? The person who resolved that was Tom Holland, right? And the only reason that Tom Holland had that much influence with the studio was because he was going to star in Uncharted for them.
Yeah.
So therefore,
Yeah.
the Uncharted movie is the only reason why we have, at all, a Spider-Man 3. So you can either, depending on how you feel about that, you can either thank them or curse them.
I mean, let's be honest. The only reason why, okay, personally, I gotta speak for everyone, but personally, the only reason I was disappointed in a lack of Spider-Man 3 is because we weren't gonna see what that cliffhanger was about, or what's gonna happen. Upon reflection on how the Spider-Man series has been going, I think it's gonna be just hype, and they're gonna try to do some cool stuff with it. And there's gonna be a ton of really cool looking action scenes.
You know what would be really shitty?
Themes and all of that is gonna be very cool because Disney and children and fucking.
Hey, you know what would be really shitty? I just had this thought. The worst thought. What if the spider what if the whole the spider Peter being revealed as Spider-Man is just in the opening scene, and then they find out some like cheat to make people believe that he's not Spider-Man again, and then the whole movie is him conflicting about whether he should tell people or not that he's Spider-Man.
Oh my god, I
So,
would
like,
not be surprised. That'd be
They
so
would
bad.
they would resolve it in like the first 10 minutes, basically.
Exactly.
And then the rest of it
They'd
would be him
revolve-
going, well,
I'm
maybe
just-
that would be nice.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's like the shittiest possible option.
So they'd be doing a civil war without the civil war.
Exactly.
Where like Peter reflects on whether or not he should reveal himself to the world. That I wouldn't be surprised. That sounds terrible. It sounds like something they would do.
I'm just saying, like, that is, if I wanted to predict the shittiest possible version of Spider-Man 3, it would be where they deal with their, consequences changing cliffhanger in the first 10 minutes, and then they undo it immediately. Like, that's exactly what, like... That's exactly what, those shitty Resident Evil movies, that's exactly what those ones do, is that they deal with their world-changing cliffhanger in the first 10 minutes, and then they have something completely different for the rest of the movie.
They did that with
Oh,
Far
yeah.
From Home, kind of. Where, like, the aftermath of Endgame, oh, yeah, first 10 minutes, that's what happens, whatever. And then
Well,
the whole movie.
I think what David means is like, there's this fucking cliffhanger for the third Resident Evil movie where the main character finds just a room full of clones of herself, and it's like, what will that end up being, right? And then the next movie, it starts with an action scene of her and all of the clones trying to kill the main villain, and then he kills all of them except the original one.
And then he
In,
depowers her.
The opening, and then he takes her powers away. So the whole clone thing that everyone waited on to figure out where that was going for like 3 years ended up just getting wiped away in the first 10 minutes of that movie.
Wow. That is.
And that's what I'm saying is the shittiest possible option.
Well,
I'm not saying it's what's
says,
gonna
I hate
happen.
that Doctor Strange is going to be in the film. I feel like it's going to be a one more day type thing. Yeah, here's another thing. I feel like they're going to take the whole make it more like the comics feedback in like the worst way possible, and they're going to like
Make it like the
With the
comic that everyone hates.
yeah, take what they've established and try to fit it into the like worst fucking comic story because it's just Joe Quesada going to JMS and being like, "Yeah, you know the story you wanted to tell? Fuck you, tell this one instead because I just had a divorce with my wife."
Yeah. That,
And they're gonna be
I'm
like,
sure
"That's
you
what the
know
fuck
about
is
all that,
on
right, David? We've talked about it enough, right?
What?
Have we talked about One More Day? Are you like aware of like what that is? And
Yeah,
how that
generally.
was conceptualized? Is
So
one
just
of
a
the
quick
editors
recap.
at Marvel was going through a really messy, horrible divorce in real life, and then kind of wanted to take it out on Peter Parker because he'd always related to that character most. So instead of having Mary Jane and Peter Parker go through a divorce, he writes basically he's like, "All right, need you to write him into a corner where his secret identity is restored, but at the cost of his marriage, so that he can go back to being single and a bachelor again." And it felt weird and petty, and like it came from like a really gross place. That like I get it. You don't want them to be together anymore because you feel like it makes the character too old. You know, like they want Spider-Man to be the young superhero, and him having a wife and potentially a kid at some point soon. It makes him too much of a dad. All right, sure. But like, why not have them actually like get divorced and like make it like work instead of just writing it so they magically were never married at all? Like it just felt so petty and gross and like it came from a really personal and bad place, you know?
Here's another thing that I dislike about the direction they're taking with just the Spider-Man franchise in general. It's what you said. They see him as the kid character, the young character, the guy who never ages up, instead of the character who does age up, because fucking Stanley's stories are about Peter going through a bunch of different phases and growing up every fucking time. He starts off in high school, then uni, then somebody else took over at that point. But like, he just kept growing and evolving and changing and becoming more of an adult, and now they're just like, let's keep him a kid. And I hate that because that more or less goes against what the character has been.
Well, yeah, they just keep infantilizing him and like trying to take away his agency and make him kind of this like bumbling sidekick character as much as they can. And like the funny thing is now, like the comics have gotten to like this boiling point where they really just can't do that with him anymore. Like he's just had too many stories and he's just been through too much now for it to even make sense. So like 616 Comics Spider-Man, they can't really turn into like a little kid again. But I guarantee you, if they could figure out a way to make it work, they would.
I mean, they just brought him back to uni now. College. Let's call it. He's been.
Which, by the way,
in this-
that was weird to me because he was shown to be going back to college for like one fucking issue, and then this entire run of 50 issues since then has not shown him do a single school thing.
Yeah, whatever happened to the plot of like this is the spice that they were building, and like they needed a thing, a compartment to make it work, and like Spider-Man 29 comes along, and then Peter borrows that thing from the future and he uses it with the device that they're building for like a thesis project for uni.
Honestly, I
basically
wasn't interested in whatever that they were gonna do with Spider-Man 2099, just because I feel like that character. Anytime they use him lately, it's been bad. So I actually just didn't read it. I just skipped that whole run.
Well, it's in like the 616 Spider-Man, in the Amazing
I
Spider-Man.
know. I skipped that whole arc because I didn't care. I wanted them to get back on track with everything going on with Kindred.
So if you'll allow me to interrupt for a second, I think what you guys are getting at, and so Anna said something in the chat that I think was really instructive, which was even Harry Potter grew up and had 3 kids. Well, Harry Potter grew up and had 3 kids at the end of the story. And what I think is a thing that really kind of bugs me about some of these comics is that they don't allow their characters to have an end. You know, there's no end point for these characters. And especially that's what I think is the problem about multiverse stories, is that's sort of a cheap way of trying to have your cake and eat it too when you're talking about endings. Because you can have an ending, but we're going to start again. We're going to do something new.
It's like, it's okay if these characters end. You can make a new one that's just as compelling and as interesting as Spider-Man. Spider-Man doesn't have to be the only.
We don't have to have Peter Parker keep going on. We can have Peter Parker meet the ending of his character.
And I think that's fine. Like, a little bit sad, sure. I mean, he's been like a classic for so many people, but that's fine. Think of like the characters that like people made in like, the 50s or 60s.
And this is why I hate. For the record, this is also why I don't like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies and the shows until season 3 of Discovery, which is a completely like reset, which was they keep trying to remind us of the old characters and be like, oh, Spock's back, ooh, Captain Pike's back, ooh, Kirk and Spock are back again. It's like, I want to see some new characters in there, especially at this point in the franchise.
Make your new characters interesting so that it'll be cool when they cross over with the old ones.
I mean, that's what made Star Trek: The Next Generation so memorable, was that they weren't doing the old characters.
That's also what got them so much hate, though.
Well, they got them hate.
That show
for like
had to struggle so hard to like earn
for a couple of months, for a couple of years. But that was also when the show wasn't good. Is that once it became good, people were persuaded into watching it because it stood on its own. People were only pissed at it not being the other thing when it wasn't good in the first place.
That's
like, imagine
fair, that's true.
Imagine if they tried to make Spider-Man into the Fantastic Four, which is what everybody loved back then. Imagine if they had the mentality they had now, where like everything has to be like this character because that's what everybody loves.
In the
How
chat,
shitty would that be?
in the chat, Anna is talking about manga runs doing the same thing and how Detective Conan is going on even after the original author died. I mean, it's the same thing with Spider-Man because Stan Lee died.
Yeah,
but he hasn't been writing it for like decades, so.
I mean, Stan Lee just like tossed the mantle onto somebody else, and he's like, just take over, and they did.
You sick or something?
And
it's
we've
kind of
had
crazy
really amazing stories up until like One More Day, when Marvel dropped the ball and decided like, let's just keep rolling with the ball.
Let's keep rolling. Keep on rolling on.
Here's another thing. I feel like ever since One More Day, they created this conflict of Peter having to go back and like fix the deal that they did with Mephisto, or at least it feels that way. We're like, this is the problem that has been established,
Let's see if
but there hasn't been anything to tie back to that problem and resolve it. And I feel like ever since One More Day has happened, all those years later, that conflict is still yet to be resolved. And every time I pick up a comic book, I'm like hoping and expecting for them to go back to that problem, but they're not. And to me,
like the Nick Spencer run is doing it though. Like, have you been caught up with that? Is like,
yeah, I've been.
There's a whole thing where he's like, man, I really want to propose to MJ, which I don't think I've done before. So like, Peter has a ring. Aunt May is terminally ill again, and it has like cancer, and it's like sick, and it's like,
they haven't gone back to that just now. Like,
I know, but but like Kindred is flat out from hell and is like torturing Peter for something horrible that he did. And, you know, with Kindred's identity, which I won't say, in case people haven't read it yet, but that's like the only other character that was directly affected by One More Day, because
that's sort of what I'm getting at. Like,
they're not directly saying it, but they're very subtly building up to it. I think One More Day is going to be resolved and kicked out at some point in Nick Spencer's run. I think that this whole run so far has been about getting back there to fix that whole thing.
I agree with you, and that's where like I was going with this, because like before Nick Spencer took over, they've always been like sort of like a carrot on the string. They've been dangling it in front of us and then just pulling it out of our sights every time we catch on.
Oh yeah,
been, like,
there's so many little hints, there's so many little jokes and nods.
Ever since Dan Slott has had like ownership of the writing of the comics, it's been like this. It's always felt like they were building up to it and trying to resolve it, but never doing it, and it felt so infuriating. And the comics have just never been interesting to me because of that. Because for the past 10 years, it's like this is the problem. At the end of One More Day, they're like, "Don't worry."
Longer. It's actually more like 13 years now.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Because Dan Slott's ended in like, wait, no, Dan Slott's ended in 2018. I'm talking about that.
Don't mind me.
Okay.
Hacking your neural network.
It always feels like it's just lingering over everything that they do, and its presence is there. Like it's very obviously there, but they're not doing anything about it. And that, to me personally, that's what has been turning me off from the comic books. And then Nick Spencer comes along, and like I think it was Xavier who just sends me a screenshot. It's like, hey, they're doing it, and he shows me like. He basically tells me to read the issue, and I read it, and I freak the fuck out because it's been so long since Peter and MJ have been together,
By me.
or like, because every time they were about to get together, it would just be talked about, and then they would drop it, and they'd be like, "Oh no, we can't do that." They did that in Sloth's like final couple of issues, and I hate that. But then Spencer's like, "Fuck you, we're doing it. This is us doing it. We did it." And ever since that, it's just been One More Day. And everything has been hinting at that. The hints have been getting stronger and stronger without, as you said, without them ever revealing or like ever saying One More Day.
They're being very coy about it. We know what's happening.
And remember the other day how I was telling you if you've read the new Spider-Man issue, 51, I think.
I haven't read that one yet. Actually,
Okay.
I need to get around to it.
In that, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think they're like actually starting to somewhat mention it, like
Directly talk about it.
not directly, but not indirectly. So it's like they sort. I could be wrong about this, and this is why I'm hesitating. But it almost feels like they're pointing fingers at it without like ever telling you where they're pointing their finger at, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I want you to read it just so I can confirm my theory, because I do have a theory as to what they're doing. But I can't be too sure. I don't want to say what it is, because I want you to read it. Because it's a good issue.
Okay. Alright, I'll try to read it soon. I've been going through a lot of older issues of Moon Knight lately. Trying to research that for...
I wonder why you're researching that.
Fine by me.
Oh, yeah,
it's not
perhaps I have something to say on the topic of Moon Knight.
Yeah, it's not like they're about to do something with him in the mainstream. It's not like he's about to be oversaturated and or overpopular and or overhyped like all the fucking time. Like that other character that everybody loved for a time.
I don't know who that character is, and I'll bet he probably wasn't played by Ryan Reynolds.
No. No, no, at all.
I'm glad that, like, that wore off eventually. Because, like, I read the more recent Deadpool run, and it's not, like, stellar or anything, but it's not, like,
It's
dick-sucking.
it's an unremarkable version of itself.
Well, no, the current run is, like, it's going back to just being, you know, stories about Deadpool being kind of himself again, which is...
That's what I was saying.
Self-destructive. Yeah, it's not like fixed or like really awesome. Yeah, I guess you're right. It is kind of. It's this. it's this weird storyline where Deadpool is hired to because the Marvel universe is a fucking weird place. So like a bunch of monsters start invading Manhattan, and they're not like
Playing for the wrong team.
they're not
Thanks for
hurting
the tip,
anyone.
coach.
No, not Manhattan. It's more like Brooklyn. They're invading Brooklyn, and they're like, we want to live here now. And they start like showing how they had some kind of deal with like human settlers there like a couple centuries ago, and they're like, we're cashing in on that. We want to live on the surface world. So it's monsters like in kind of in the vein of like Swamp Thing and like Werewolf by Night, like that kind of stuff. They're all just going to live there.
Good night,
under some
Marvel
kind of-
DC fan reviews. I hope you have a lovely
Oh.
evening.
See ya,
See you later,
boyo.
man.
Thanks for hanging out. But it's a storyline where those guys start like jumping into Brooklyn and trying to live there, and Deadpool is hired to assassinate their king, and then he does. But the culture of this like community of monsters is whoever kills the king is the new king. So now Deadpool's just in charge of all of them, and they're like just following his every command. So now he's just like basically just
Hey, I
having
get to
a
play as
big,
Deathstroke
like,
now.
oh yeah, nice. But now
I get to
Deadpool's
play as
using,
Joe Mangia, whatever his last name is.
Manganiello, I think. Flash Thompson.
Yeah, Flash Thompson.
But now Deadpool is acting like a giant, like, petty brat because other superheroes are constantly excluding him from things, and he's like, well, now I'm a king of my own nation, and we have our own island, and you guys aren't invited. And, like, other heroes are like, can you fucking calm down and, like leave? And he's like, no, because I wanted to hang out with the X-Men on their X-Men island, and no one would let me. Like, it's not, like, the best story he's ever had, but it is entertaining, and, like, I like that it's just him acting like a giant petulant brat while also being in charge of, like, an army of the undead. Because that just seems like, that's Deadpool. That's something he would do.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the previous run, the Scotty Young book that lasted only like 12 issues because it was bad, is he's like talking like Ryan Reynolds, like every other fucking like word bubble has that big garble of typefaces to be the bleeps for the cuss words. Because they're like, oh, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool cusses like pretty much every line of dialogue, so now the one in the books has to do that. But now it's just like really distracting because it's a comic book, and like he hangs out with Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and it's just it was cringy and like very transparent. What they were trying to do is just try and make it more like the movie version, and like it just wasn't entertaining at all. And I'm glad that it ended. And it was one of those runs where you could tell it was going to build up to a really long storyline that was going to probably go on for a while, but then got abruptly canceled, so then they had to resolve it in one issue before the next writer came along. And, like, if there's any storyline that deserved it, it was that one, because it was some dumbass thing where Deadpool's friend Weasel, what's his name?
Whatever.
T.J. Miller, yeah, that character. Yeah, that character in the comics is dead and went to hell and is now teaming up with Mephisto to torture Deadpool from beyond the grave. And then they create some kind of like human villain for him who's like sort of like an evil version of Batman to torture and beat up Deadpool. And then they were going to do something where they were going to like kidnap and kill Deadpool's daughter. It was just a mess, and it was like going on way too long. And then the book got abruptly canceled, so then Deadpool just like solved it in 5 pages, and it was like a complete flatline. I'm like mad that the Scotty Young book exists, because it's just like we wasted so much time on like 12 issues of what equated to just nothing interesting happening.
I feel the
Just
same
so-
about Dan Slott, man. Like the exact same.
Can you imagine if Dan Slott wrote Superman?
Oh, I don't want to imagine. Like, besides Superior
So
and getting cool
Superman would
suits,
just be like a selfish jerk and like get himself into trouble constantly.
And we would have a
like
shirt that
everyone
said,
else.
"Ask me about my feminist agenda."
that'd be his new
Now,
suit.
in all fairness, that was a joke because Peter wasn't wearing that shirt. It was another character he was dating at the time wore that shirt in a cover that was like really controversial. And then Peter was dating her, and he was like, "Hey, I don't have a spare change of clothes. Do you got anything?" And she gave him that shirt, and he was just wearing. It was meant to be like a gag, is like a reference to another thing.
I know it's a
think
gag.
everyone Everyone
overreacted.
overreacted to that. I'm gonna say that. Everyone freaked the fuck out for like.
Oh yeah. Like, it's like you said, or it's like I was saying. Besides Superior Spider-Man and the cool new suits that he has, did anything happen in Dan Slott's run that didn't just get like forgotten about or just like retconned? I mean, we had
To
Mr.
answer
Negative
that,
for a bit.
I will.
Where is it
You
now?
know what? I'll answer that question with another question. Remember the name of the sidekick that Peter had for 30 issues?
What the? Peter had a sidekick?
Well,
In
maybe
Dan Slott's
30
run.
is maybe it was more like 15 to 20. It felt like longer. Yes, he had a sidekick for a little while. You know what?
Oh, wait. When was this? Like, about which era of Dan Slott's run? Like, early, middle, late?
It was, I think, after Superior, but before Partner Industries. Maybe, you know what? Actually, no. Maybe it was before Superior. But it was, he had a sidekick named Alpha, who is like, let me see. Introduced during the 50th anniversary of Spider-Man. Okay, so that would have been pre-Superior.
That's that Green Lantern-looking motherfucker from the Amazing Spider-Man game in that comic book store.
Yeah.
What? What?
Spider-Man sidekick to coincide with 1962 and 2012, starting in 692 as of Alpha. So yeah, he just had a sidekick who had like super strength and energy powers, and fly. Basically, like he had just this Green Lantern fucking kid.
Okay,
was his
so
sidekick. And no one remembers that character.
so I want your input on this, Xavier.
Yeah.
Social App Spider-Man brought up in the chat. Why did the people get pissed off at the mere idea last year at the mere idea of Spider-Man being bisexual? Isn't that the point that he's relatable? What do you think about that?
I think people saying Spider-Man is meant to be relatable, they go way fucking overboard with it to the point
Well,
of if this character is not an
my
exact
point
mirror
is,
image
no.
of myself, then I hate it. And,
My
like,
question
I'm
is,
getting tired
should
of
he
that.
be bisexual or not?
I don't think so. You know what? I've really gone into this as a thing about myself because I'm a little bit guarded about that kind of thing. But that would make him a little bit more relatable to me, but I don't think it's really necessary. And I don't think they need to go for that. I don't really see what I don't think it would add anything. And
Well, I guess
we've
at
already
this
had so many storylines where that hasn't really been a thing that it would just feel shoehorned and like just kind of out of nowhere.
Well, I guess it's a. I guess
it would feel as disingenuous as Iceman. You're suddenly gay and have never felt anything for any of the women you've ever dated.
Well, I guess it's. I guess
I feel.
I guess what we're
50
getting
years
at.
of stories.
So I think what we're getting at here is that there should be better representation in the Marvel comics than. I mean, it's not like we had great bi-representation in comics anyways. It's just, oh, Iceman, you're gay now.
Yeah, that always feels like really disingenuous and forced.
And most
and
bisexual
like,
characters
pandering.
in general in
Most
fiction
bisexual
are
characters
female.
are women.
I kind of want to call back to something that we had a discussion about, you and I. It's original writer intention.
Nobody
We were
cares.
talking about, I think, you were talking about like I don't know, characterizations and adaptations. Like I was debating you about like what could be considered as okay for changes, and I think you went on about how like you can change something if it's something as minute as like a character costume, but as far as like changing the character and like what they do, I think you said something along the lines of I think it goes back to how the original character, original writer intended the character to be, and I feel like with something like this, I kind of draw up that argument a lot because, like, yeah, Spider-Man could be bisexual. Like, you could make him, you know, you could have a thing like Iceman.
You mean,
did, where
why
it's
don't you
like,
make him bisexual?
How I said?
It sounded like that, so I was making a joke. It's called comedy. I'm lightening the tension of the scene.
Like, you could do an Iceman and like just have him be bisexual on the set. People are not gonna like it, but you could do that. But I feel like you gotta consider what the original writer had in mind for that character, because, like, yeah, sure, that wasn't a popular thing for characters to be back then, but neither were like, you know, black people in comics. Black Panther was, you know, I don't want to say a big risk because I can't say that for certain, but like, going off of just how things
Put it
were
this
back
way,
then,
it was very
especially in the
intentional to make him black in a world that
That's
didn't
very
have a
good.
lot of black comics.
There we go.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
yeah,
feel like
you didn't take a pre-existing
tactical
character from the
one-dimensional.
'70s and then make them black, like, because then it would feel like
Oh look, it's
you're
big boob Superwoman, or Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Offered amnesty.
Okay,
Big
you know
boob
what?
Wonder
Here it
Woman, we're
is.
here. We're here for the big titty villain.
How dare you? I'm an Amazon.
Big titty woman.
An obsolete race with predictable techniques. Give me a real challenge.
What I think
Surprise.
it comes down to is, Black Panther feels really like, you know, a character that black people can, you know, be proud of and like have it be theirs, because it wasn't something that was like, it didn't feel like pandering. It was something that was just kind of made to represent them. But if Black Panther started off as some white guy named like, you know, John Alexander, the Black Panther, and then was changed after the fact, it would feel. It would
Well,
just feel
there's
like,
also the problem.
It wouldn't
of,
feel like something you own. It feels like something you've rented.
Oh, here's the
know?
alternative. Well, here's the problem with that, which is that when you're talking about LGBTQ representation, especially, there's not that much of it within comics
No,
now. And furthermore, if you'll allow me to finish, what I'm trying to say is that there's this whole. The problem is that, like, at least when we're talking about movies, the comics are like a different thing, but and it's to a lesser extent the same problem, just not as bad. Is that people have these cast of characters that they like, and if you try to add a new character, it's much harder to like introduce them to people and make people interested and invested in this one LGBTQ character. So since intellectual property and this established roster is the important thing, if we don't introduce them retrospectively into this what is the dominant cultural force, how do we have them in there? We just have them in the background.
Yeah, I get it's hard to like introduce a new character and have them stick, but like
Especially when you're talking about movies, but comics to a lesser extent as well, you know? Like, they could
with
say,
the
oh, we
comics,
have...
there's been a lot of strides. Like you got like Kamala Khan and like Miles Morales and like
Roger that.
Riri Williams. Like they introduced like this whole new generation of heroes, and like the response to them was a little all over the place at the beginning, but the better ones of that era have all stuck around and are persisting and are now making strides to be, you know, introduced into the movies. Like, you know, they're making a Kamala Khan TV series, so you know we're gonna get that.
Oh, look,
you know,
it's
that
fascist
Muslim
Superman.
superhero, right? So like, it's working. It's just like it's a little slow, and like I feel like people want instant results. In my mind, I think it works as if you just take it slow and like ease the characters in and make sure you don't just give up on them if they're not instantly like a fan favorite.
Yeah.
Because, like, Miles wasn't anyone's fan favorite. Like, he was introduced and, like, was just boring and lame for, like, 4 years. But eventually they figured out what to do with him, and now he's really cool. And now people are excited when they see him in things. And now he's getting his own video game, he's already got his own movie, and, like, now he's just a character that's going to be around. Like, he's going to have staying power because they didn't give up right away when his books were little white bread boring. So I think that the goal should be keep introducing, new characters like LGBT stuff, and just kind of stick with it and don't get discouraged if they're not instantly a hit. You gotta play the waiting game, because eventually, once they've been there long enough, people will just be like, oh yeah, they're just a fixture of the universe. Yeah, I know Miles, he's been around. Or, oh yeah, I know Kamala Khan, she's been around. Like, once they've kind of been there long enough to earn their place, then they can start growing to be a more mainstream big thing for, like, movies and games and TV shows. So, I get it that, like, it may seem kind of like a lost cause when, you introduce these characters, and maybe the reaction immediately isn't quite positive, or maybe they don't instantly get popular, or maybe they seem out of place, but if you just stick with it, eventually it'll work. And like I said, I don't think you should just take a character who already exists and just change their sexuality, because then it feels like it just feels disingenuous and, like, handed to you. And, like, when you create a character with that in mind for them, then it feels more special, because then it doesn't feel like, something's been lost or changed in order for that to happen. It just feels like, that character is just a gift, rather than, like, something that was just kind of thrown at you. So, I think in the future, if you want to introduce another Spider-Man character or something that is bisexual, sure. Or if you want to do, like, an alternate universe where he's bisexual, sure. Or if you're doing an adaptation, like a fucking, I don't know, a cartoon or a movie, and you just go, in this universe he is, sure, I guess. But, like, just taking 616 comic Peter Parker, who's been straight as an arrow for 50, 60 years now, and then go, oh yeah, he's also into dudes now, just out of nowhere. That just, it would feel forced, and it wouldn't feel genuine.
I agree with that.
And again, this goes to a lot of other things outside of him being bisexual. This is just a lot of things in general. I think people need to chill the fuck out with Spider-Man is relatable. Spider-Man's meant to be the everyman. Spider-Man's everyone. Spider-Man's just like me. He has a personality. He's not just this fucking blank slate that you can just, like, put yourself on. There's a character there already.
Yeah, he's not a make-your-own character, sort of. He's not Gordon Freeman.
He's not Gordon Freeman, where you can just, like make up your own personality for him in your head, or just insert yourself. Like this complete mannequin, you can dress up however you want. He has a personality that's pre-established. He has a character, he acts a certain way. Yes, he is a relatable character, but that doesn't mean being relatable is the sole fucking thing about him. That doesn't mean, like, we need to change everything about him so he matches me, the specific individual viewer. And if there's a single part of his life that I can't personally relate to, then he's not right. It's like, people get so overzealous about that, and it's so frustrating, because it's like they don't know what the fuck that means, relatable is. It's not me in a Spider-Man costume, or you in a Spider-Man costume. Peter Parker exists.
Unless you're talking about Spider-Verse, in which case that is the whole point.
Relatability and... Oh, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, that's another thing, is, like, I feel like that point in Spider-Verse has been misinterpreted a little bit. It's like...
I was making a joke there. It's supposed to be it's supposed to lighten the tone from this conversation that I didn't find as interesting as I thought it would be, because you're being stupid, but you took it too seriously, unlike what I wanted to, So the whole point is missing. So what's the point of even
No, I
continuing
feel like that's
anymore?
an actual valid point. I've heard that argument be made. Is the whole anybody could wear the mask? It's like that doesn't mean that.
Dude, I know this. It doesn't need to be said. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
No, I want to hear you out. I want to hear you out. You gotta
No.
say
No,
it.
no, no.
He was my son.
No, never mind. I'll be done with that topic then. Send your complaints to cautiouslyreal@twitter.com.
Please do.
Thought that,
I
you wanted
love
to
to
hear
see
what I had
Twitter
to say.
notifications, even if they're
I'm
bad.
gonna send a complaint that you didn't let Xavier finish his thought. That was interesting. I was actually interested in hearing your thoughts. Go ahead. I will
I'm
harass
sorry,
you,
it's
but-
just that this is a conversation that I feel like I've had a bunch of times, and I'm like a little bit very ambivalent about it.
I'll say it quick then. The point of it was not that Spider-Man is a blank slate and literally any person in the universe can and should be Spider-Man. It's any person can be a hero if they have the right stuff and
I love
have
how
a
you-
good heart.
Like, but, okay, so my point there wasn't that I was just being... So what I was trying to say is I realized that that's what they were saying in the movie. I was just trying to be, like, you know, fun. Have a
No,
little
I
bit of,
know.
like-
I'm not making the point to you. I'm making that point as because I've heard people on Twitter actually use that as an argument for why Peter Parker doesn't have a personality.
Oh, look, I'm fighting my shitty son.
Yeah, beat up your fucking son. Beat Damian Wayne's ass. Just keep slapping him constantly.
I love how
I hate
Batman at one
Damian
point
Wayne
goes,
so much.
"You're dead to me," and then he fucking.
He
I had
fucking
one. I had
slaps
a
the
son.
shit out of him.
It's like the
I
Spider-Man.
had a son. He's like, I had a son. His name was Dick Grayson. You're just some fucking horrible monster thing that came from my seed. I hate you, Damian.
Your
And he
mom just
slapped
stole
him.
my glue grenade and used it to create you.
I love that! I love the glue grenade
forgot
so
glue
much!
grenades.
I know.
Now that's a deep cut for this one. That's a joke from the old and from the very
Yeah,
beginning of
the
this.
the first days.
Man,
Played
remember when we were
Arkham
still
Origins.
when we were still in quarantine?
Remember when I was still like getting used to the whole stream format and I was trying to be like
And you were like
funny
awkward.
man all the time? Yeah.
I mean,
I was,
you
like,
had
trying
some
to
good
use comedy
jokes.
a lot to like diffuse attention because I was like really nervous.
I mean,
but
you
now I just
had
feel like I'm a lot
some
more
good
chill.
jokes, you know.
Well, yeah, but like I went a little too overboard, is what I'm saying. Like I've always tried to be cracking jokes. Like, I didn't like that because I felt like I was forcing myself to. Because I was like really nervous. Because I'm like, holy shit, like people are watching me, and it's not just me and friends.
Oh my god, I love it!
gotten the
I
hang
just
of
got
it.
him. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like I just got a hit on Damian Wayne, and then then Batman said, "Wrong move, son." And I'm just yes, I love that so much. Wrong move, son.
Is it when he stuck the bomb on his back?
Yes.
But that just happened as you like told us it happened. We're not delayed in the stream, and I'm kind of happy about that.
Well, I guess you're delayed, but the delay is relatively minor.
Son.
This isn't a mud hole. This is an operating table.
Socially, and
And I'm
Spider-Man
the
says.
surgeon.
Socially, and Spider-Man says, "I didn't intend my relatability argument to go this way. If I wrote Spider-Man, that's what people." Yeah, like we were not talking about it just you. I feel like it is something that like needs to be discussed because people do get. Well, to me anyway, people. Like, as Xavier said, people like do get the wrong idea of what like
So
you know.
I guess
relatability should be.
So
'Cause
here's
I feel like there's a difference between relatability and the ability to insert yourself.
So if I were to say something about this to finish off this conversation that I just find very uninteresting, what I would say is that if you think like, I could totally see this character as being this, that's fine. You know, that's a completely valid. You know, everybody has their own take on a character. That's fine. What I think Xavier is kind of reacting against more the attitude where you see people on Twitter who will be like, friendly reminder that Spider-Man is is an AFAB trans male, you know, it's like, and anybody who disagrees will be like, you know, blah 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 blah. It's like, if you think that that's the character, that's fine. I think it's great that you see that possibility in this person, but if you think that that's the only possibility, and everybody who disagrees with you, or be like, was that in the comics? If anybody says that sort of thing, or anybody who disagrees with you, you know, that's the problem.
It's that weird, like,
my
interpretation of the character is king, and you're transphobic or racist if you disagree with me.
And I think that the problem that we need to get rid of is not people who are saying, here's what the text is, I don't think you're right about that. It should more be criticizing people who are making this stuff for not including these people in the stories in the first place. You know, that's the target we all need to talk about.
Yeah. Because, like, people wouldn't have to make these weird fucking logical jumps about this if just they had actual characters that they could relate to.
I don't know, I've been thinking about that a lot, especially in relation to Sherlock. So there's a video from a YouTuber called Sarah Z, or she's from Canada, so Sarah Z. And the point of that episode, it's all about like the John Locke thing, about within Sherlock there was a big community of like queer teens going, oh, I really think that Sherlock should be, you know, gay for John or whatever. And the problem with
Sherlock
that was
show should not be dating anyone. He's like a weird antisocial asshole.
Well, the problem with it is also the way that like the showrunners constantly like baited this relationship between the two characters, but they also made fun of the fans in the show for liking that interpretation. Because I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this like fan club who meets like in this one part of the show where it's like after he disappears, there's this whole fan club that meets about Sherlock. It's like, oh, did he do this? Did he do this? And it's very clear that they're making fun of the fans and being like, these people are stupid for making these theories. And I feel that, like, it's kind of I just think about that a lot, you know? How there's sort of like an antipathy. I understand why these people are like this when there's that sort of antipathy to these people. Within, like, when the showrunners are like...
Yeah, like, specifically targeting them to make these jokes.
Yeah, while they're
feeding...
While these showrunners are specifically targeting these fans for... they want these fans to be fans of their show, but at the same time they're not willing to really give them that what they want in it, and I think that's probably the problem. I would say. I was just thinking about that a lot.
On the opposite end of that, do you guys remember Arrow, the TV show?
I don't want to.
That fucking fan base really immediately glommed onto the idea of this character specifically made just for the show, Felicity Smoke, and her and Oliver getting together. And then the writers made it canon, and then made like the whole show just about that. Like, there's just seasons and seasons of bullshit and material about how this goofy nerd girl and hot Green Arrow man with abs get together because she's like, she kind of works as like a self-insert for a lot of the fangirls in the audience. And like, it got so bad that they killed off Green Arrow's canon love interest just in favor of keeping around Felicity longer.
Are you fucking serious? They did that?
Yeah.
I knew they got together. I didn't know that's how they did it.
Black Canary, the one who marries in the comic books, they kill her off and get rid of her so that they could have Felicity be his love interest instead.
I'm fucking... I did not know that.
I like didn't watch that show past season 3.
I didn't watch it past season 2. Because season 2...
Season 2 fucking sucked, and everyone who tells me that's the best one is an idiot. I hate it. It's the worst.
I just...
They ruined Deathstroke. That's super bad.
I was just like...
Everyone goes, oh, Deathstroke's such a compelling, awesome villain. It's like, no, what? Where?
I feel like nowadays people overuse terms like compelling iconic. And, like, you know, terms like that, what would you call it?
Things that they've heard people in the industry say, and now they want to try and sponsor it.
So there's like a term for it, like a term in marketing for it. What do you call it?
Oversaturation.
No. It's like something words.
Buzzwords.
There we go. Buzzwords. Like these, you know, big buzzwords that like you use when describing something that's so cool. Classic is another one of them. Like people overuse those a lot to like try and emphasize their point, and it's gotten to the point where it's so cringe hearing iconic or classic or fucking I don't know,
Compelling.
just words like that. Like I was watching a Game Informer Spider-Man the other day, and the creative director was referring to like a punch that fucking Miles does against Spider-Man. He referred to it as iconic, and I could see why he would do that, but I heard it and I just cringe because of the amount of times I've heard people misuse the word iconic in describing something that they enjoy. It's like, no, this really well rendered CGI explosion is not iconic, it just looks good. This guy jumping on his motorcycle is not iconic, it's just a good stunt look.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it's a little bit after midnight, and I have like school tomorrow, so I think we should start thinking about wrapping it up pretty soon. But it was a good time, you know, hanging out with my friends on an extremely uneventful, ordinary Tuesday, on which there is nothing.
Nothing is happening.
Nothing is happening.
Man,
So
I hope I didn't get too much into my ranting. I kind of feel bad about that. I feel so
no problem. You know, I think I'm gonna call it now, just to end things off. But we love you all for coming. Thank you for watching, everybody. We were very
Thanks,
glad to
Bud.
have you. Hopefully next week. No, tune in on Friday or Saturday actually, because Saturday is our next Among Us stream, and don't forget to tune in for that. That will be a lot of fun. And then after that, we will have, you know, the usual streams every Saturday. We might actually, I don't know, if I can find the time, we might have another stream during the week just for fun if I can fit it in, you know. Because I think this one went pretty well. We had some decent viewership. Thank you all for joining. I wasn't expecting this many people to come.
Hell yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Seriously, thank you guys for joining in. I didn't...
Indeed.
We got like up to fucking 18 or 19 people.
Yeah, 19 was the peak, which was, I was surprised.
Yeah.
But
That's a
thank
lot.
you all. We will see you on Saturday for Among Us.
See ya, everybody. We love yous.
See you later, y'all. Bye-bye.